And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
All right, we're live, people.
All right, good morning, everybody. Let's hope my stalling is much better today. 8:05 live Eastern Time, 5:05 Pacific Time. Shout out to Arbad, who's a friend and listener to the podcast. Really helped me out yesterday doing different speed tests, trying to get my stalling where it needs to be. Good morning, everybody. Got some regulars over here. Nighthawk 13666. Of course, Sherry. Good morning. Matt O'Brien. Who else is here? Chris Arnold. Good morning, brother. Joe Mango. Imp Franco. Gigi Jupiter, which I assume is a woman. Good morning. Who's donated a lot to the podcast. Thank you so much. Crazy 10-7. We got some real regulars over here, friends and listeners to the podcast. Thank you so much, Patrick Donahue. Here's somebody new, Pistol Pete, President Duty, outstanding Sergeant Blue 11. Let's go, brother. Let's play a game of who's getting a federal probe in New York City. Who's next on the Adams administration? I mean, every day you wake up, it's like, all right, who's next on the probe? What do you got?
I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting because I really think the big guy's going down, bro. I really do. You know, and everybody's like getting nervous. Pray they don't take Eric Adams down. I'm like, I'm not praying for that. I'm like, I don't pray for a lot of things for myself. I'm definitely not praying for Eric Adams to not fall. The dude, if everything that's being alleged is true, he's too incompetent to run New York City. It's not saying that I'm like, oh yeah, let's get Jumaane Williams in. Jumane's going to be great. No, I'm not saying that at all. But if crimes are happening and crimes are being committed and he's potentially involved in them, I'm not going to save those. I'm not going to say those prayers. I refuse to. Everyone's like, I know you hate him. I'm like, I absolutely don't hate Eric Adams. I just think he's completely incompetent. I think he's a tyrant. You've seen the whole Varmagate stuff that broke out. A lot of city council calling to just reinstate the terminated people. So it's not even me, right? Reinstate the terminated people. I do think that I was essentially terminated because I was given an ultimatum, but they're saying the people that officially didn't retire and got terminated. And I would be happy with that. And it wouldn't even cost the city a lot of money. It would cost them less money than to fight their cases. So it makes absolutely no sense. I have a clip of it. I'll bring it up in a little bit. He's unwilling to do it. He said they didn't follow the rules that didn't make any sense. So like, do I hate Eric Adams because of that? No, I don't hate Eric Adams at all. But if what he's alleged is being true and everyone around him has a scandal. Now we see the latest with the sheriff come out. We saw the school's chancellor is stepping down now. I don't know why Phil Banks still hasn't stepped down. I don't know what's going on with him. But if that's the case, I mean, see you later.
Well, I will say this. He might not be a good mayor for New York City, but he's the best mayor we're going to have in the podcast world. And if Mayor Eric Adams does step down or he gets removed, I just want to say a special thanks to Mayor Eric Adams. You provide a lot of content to this podcast. Our friends and listeners, I'm sure they appreciate it also. We appreciate the memes, the racist memes. I can't thank you enough. I mean, listen, Mayor Eric Adams has done a lot for New York's Finest Retired Filtered podcast. So for that, I salute you. We salute you for the algorithm. But as far as being a mayor of New York City, that's a whole nother story. I mean, it's come to the point, honestly, really, we could get somebody from the 124 room. You know, anybody here that's NYPD, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and they could probably do a better job than Mayor Eric Adams. But it's shocking, brother. I can't believe it. Like, the arrogance of Adams and his administration, that even with this whole Varmagate, that he can't even say, you know what? Wow, our people were bamboozled. I apologize for, taking this thing to the goalpost, and let's try to make people whole. Let's make this right. Let's build this together. But no, he has to double down. They didn't follow the rules. They didn't follow the rules. Those rules should have never even been there. What are you talking about? Rules, laws, policies. Again, more gaslighting from Eric Adams. Deflection.
Yeah, this is him. But Eric, it sounds like you're saying that you thank God every day for Eric Adams, that he made your career, right? That's what it sounds like.
He's making my career in podcasting.
Do you remember that one? I got that clip too somewhere. I got to find it. I bet you wake up every day and you thank God that I'm the mayor of the city, right? I made your career. How many headlines did I give you? You know, I mean, I agree with you. I think Eric Adams is hysterical. I think this is the funniest administration ever. I'm calling 4 more years Eric Adams. I already said it. I'm Team Adams. I'm Team Get Stuff Done. So when he steps down, I'm gonna be sad. Don't think that I'm cheering. I'm not. When John Shell leaves the police department, I'm gonna be sad. When Kaz Daughtry leaves the police department, I'm sad. When Eric Adams ultimately leaves New York City, I'm going to be sad. I'm not gonna lie. But I do think Jumaane Williams is going to add some content if he takes over as the mayor. I do think there's going to be a lot of sound bites with Jumaane Williams up there too. So I'm not saying that Eric Adams is the end all be all, but yeah, I agree with you 100%, dude. He's totally he's hysterical. The dude's hysterical. I actually envy him a little bit. I do because he does not back off anything. It's crazy.
I gotta laugh. Tom says, Eric, unless you get better internet, your podcast career is in jeopardy.
That's it.
That's hilarious. But yeah, I predict also. Listen, if we get Jumaane Williams, if he's next in line, we'll have some more content. I predict the content will be pretty good too. It might not be as funny as Mayor Eric Adams. We have a volume of content. There's no doubt about it. But here we go. New York City Sheriff probed over alleged pay-to-play scheme. Is anybody shocked? Not at all. John, let's get into some Mayor Eric Adams comedy before we talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is Adams' statement when they ask about the Varmagate. Clearly, Jay Varma lied, right? He completely lied. He perjured himself. In numerous documents. I put that out yesterday. I could bring that one up too before we get into Miranda. But he clearly perjured himself. He lied on all official documents. He said that there is a difference between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. But in private, he said there is no difference. So he completely lied, completely perjured himself. I have numerous court affidavits where he did that. I posted one yesterday. But this is after this comes out, people start to ask Eric Adams. Here's Eric Adams' statement.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
What's going on, Monica?
Dr. J. Varma's comments came out. Some council members, but also public, they demand action. Yesterday, there was a demonstration in front of City Hall. I'm asking you, Mr. Mayor, do you consider reinstating and compensating those city workers who lost their job because of those COVID mandates? Also, what do you have to say to those employees who lost their job because of those mandates, not only in the city, but also in the private sector? And Mr. Mayor, are you going to support the idea of former Mayor Bill de Blasio and his administration to testify and get accountability for their actions during that time?
Dr. J has not been kind to this administration about our excellent ability to navigate us through COVID. What we did to get us out of COVID, there was a lot of outside voices who was saying what we should have done, should not have done, but we were successful in doing so. I'm not going to return the same favor to him. He has to deal with that. And what his actions, they do not change the facts. We had a major pandemic. There were rules that were put in place. People chose not to follow those rules. And his behavior doesn't change the fact that we saved lives because of the rules that were put in place. And I think Mayor de Blasio made some tough decisions, as well as other leaders, executives, and they carried out those decisions. But I need to be focused on the city, not on what his actions were.
Wow. So some people chose not to follow the rules. I think the biggest thing here, Eric, I don't know if you're looking at it, but have you seen Sheena Wright? She looks like she was crying all night. She looks out of it. She doesn't even look like she knows what he's saying.
First of all, this was the most convoluted response, and him putting on his little COVID cough, just to deflect so he could think about what he's going to say is ridiculous. I mean, what he said to me, it's almost like you could use the analogy like, well, yeah, you're supposed to drive on the right side of the road, but if you drive on the left side of the road, you're going the wrong way, it could save lives, but maybe you should follow the rules. If we told you you should drive on the left side, yeah, you drive on the left side because that's what the rules are. Even though it could kill people, it doesn't matter. Everything he said makes zero sense. Why can't this guy ever be flexible and apologetic and forgiving in his statements? Never can he analyze something and say, you know what? Clearly we made a mistake. Clearly the information that we got and we were bamboozled. He's the medical professional. I was guided by a medical professional, and clearly we were led astray and it was a complete lie. And now we have to make those wrongs right. But that's not what he does. Instead, he's saying, oh, we have rules. So if the rules are completely wrong, it's a lie, we should still follow it. Didn't we have somebody that didn't follow the rules that had 2 fake vaccine cards and lied? She didn't follow the rules. She's still employed. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. How is one okay, but the other one, it doesn't make sense. Oh, but she doesn't have integrity, so that's okay. Because in this administration, if you don't have integrity, you're a valuable source. So let's get to it. Let's get to the lies of Dr. Varma here.
Yeah, let's get to that. And then Crowd is going live at 10. We're going to try to bring that to you if we're still on. We'll bring you what the hell's going on because there's more coming out about this. But this was an affidavit. This was from the restaurants. This is a condensed version. I took out, I think, 44 points that Varma signed under penalty of perjury. So this was all the restaurants that were being shut down. So you see John Shell's favorites on there, Salty Dog as well, that were being shut down because they didn't want to do the city's bidding of checking for cards, right? So J. Varma signs here. You see, I, J. Varma, MD, declare under penalty of perjury pursuant to 28 USC 1746 as follows. And so I took out all the other parts. I went right to line 25, and there are other lines in there. And by the way, there's numerous other affidavits with other points on there. I just figured this would be the easiest for everybody to see. And then, I obviously brought that up and I put his signature underneath it. So I just condensed the whole affidavit. But what he says here in line 25 is he says people who have recovered from COVID-19 should be vaccinated because research has not yet shown how long protection lasts following recovery, and people who have had COVID can still benefit from the vaccine. Moreover, the COVID-19 vaccine has been shown to offer persons with prior COVID-19 infection greater protection against reinfection. So this is what he said, though, in regards to it, if you listen to the voiceover.
And if you're 50 years old or above, you need 4 doses.
I'm sure that's consistent when they don't know cameras are running, right?
I know people that won't have sex with someone that didn't get the COVID vaccine. And I don't know enough to know if that's like
that's like a weird, I think that's a weird belief that somehow their body is different. It's not like any difference at all. Everybody's exposed to the virus. And you're exposed to the virus because it breathed on you or because you got injected you. It's the same immune response.
Okay.
Bang. That's it. End of story. Perjury. That's it. Bang.
A lie is a lie, brother. It's that simple, right? There's 1,000 ways to tell a lie, and only one way to tell the truth. And it's lie after lie. And that, again, Mayor Eric Adams, you have the proof in your face. Listen, that's what real character is. Real character is saying, you know what? We made a mistake. How do we make those wrongs right? That's what a true leader does. So clearly, we've seen every example from Mayor Eric Adams on he's a failure in a leadership position. He's a horrible manager. He can't manage things, and he can't lead people. And again, Mayor Eric Adams is just an arrogant moron. And the fact that he will not try to make this whole and make this right is absolutely ridiculous. And how he sees this as a reflection of himself and he's doubling down. Honestly, he really is a piece of shit.
No, he's a terrible human being. But Eric, you proved him right today because listen to what he says. And I'm gonna put your clip side by side with this clip. Listen to what he says before we get into Sheriff Miranda.
I like to admit it, but I know you get on your knees and pray every night. Thank God Eric is the mayor of our city. You know that? You're able to ride your little bike safely through our city. No one is coming at you. You know, you're able to hang out in the restaurant. You know, you're able to enjoy your little restaurants. You're able to, I made your career. You get so many first page stories from me. You are so excited about covering me. You you are so excited covering me. You don't know what to do.
I think he's right, bro.
He made this podcast.
He made the podcast. Thank you, Eric.
Honestly, we can play that clip over and over. I mean, we see that clip thousands of times. And if you close your eyes, you would think that's a Saturday Night Live skit. Like, no way this is actually coming from the real mayor of New York City. But sure enough, Eric Adams, he doesn't disappoint. It's like comedy. You can ride your little bike. I mean, that's hysterical. Ride your little bike, go to a little restaurant. Like, he makes it seem like before Mayor Eric Adams, like that was it. It was just like Escape New York. You can't even walk into a restaurant. You can't get on your bike. Oh my God, Eric, you are delusional, brother.
Dude, honestly, bro, he's hysterical. He honestly is. It's So when he resigns, the rumors coming out, he's resigning. So we're not gonna, we're gonna definitely have a Eric Adams marathon when that happens. But I'll tell you right now, we'll definitely be sad about it. So let's it'll be better for New York though. I think sometimes things got to get a little worse before they're gonna get better. But obviously he's not helping New York. I could show you clip after clip from last night and crime after crime from yesterday, but we'd be here probably about 10 hours. So I will show you some clips from yesterday, but we won't get into everything that happened yesterday. But this comes out actually 2 days ago that the New York City Sheriff's being probed by DOI over an alleged pay-to-play scheme involving his law enforcement group that he chairs. So he's the head of the National Latinos Officers Association, NOLA, right? NOLA, National Officer Latino Association. So he's the chair of that. It's being alleged a couple of different things. So it's being alleged that he's saying that if you donate to his law enforcement organization that he chairs, you will be alleviated of having dealing with enforcement from the New York City Sheriff's Office. I don't know if that involves other agencies. That's one allegation. The other allegation is that he's mishandling money that's being seized from pot shops. Eric, are you shocked about either of these?
Well, he pretty much admitted to it, right? When he was questioned by Justin Brannon, he pretty much admitted to it. I mean, he has no accountability for any money seized, and he actually has no accountability for what arrests were made. He was able to deviate and say, well, no, not the marijuana arrest. The other arrest he was able to account for, but not the marijuana arrest. And he can't account for money retrieved. But he did make sure when he donated, he loaned his own campaign $11,000. He made sure to get back $1,300 in interest. That he made sure. But as the New York City Sheriff, when they're retrieving and possessing a substantial amount of money in seizures and marijuana, that he can't remember. How fitting, isn't that?
Oh, everything. Listen, these guys, they're hustlers, man. They're hustlers. And that's what people don't realize, and like, we often say that, oh, they're incompetent. We often talk about that. Oh, they're incompetent. They're incompetent. But are they really, or they just don't want to get locked into statements? And I think, we covered the sheriff's hearing at New York City Council. And I think that raised a lot of eyebrows because some people just aren't that dumb. You can't play that you're this dumb. You can't, you just can't. You just can't believe that you're this dumb. I usually won't pull up clips from the podcast earlier, but on 9/20 we covered this, and I think it really plays in because 4 days later, all the investigation sparks. I'm not saying that the investigation sparked because of us, but it definitely sparked because of this hearing. Because if this didn't raise your eyebrow, I mean, this was just something. This was unbelievable. So before we get into the article, before we get into all the allegations, I just want to play this clip from 9/20 prior to these investigations sparking. And this, we had put this out, and we wanted people to see this. This This is another Eric Adams appointment. We're putting together all of his appointment and all of his resignations. I'm working on that now, but we got a lot of stuff, so I don't know that I get on that before it all comes crumbling down. But we will put it together either way, and we'll share that with you, and we can do an episode on it just so you could see like how much this man has actually affected New York City and how much his appointments have affected New York City and the state of New York City and the state of business in New York City. So I'll play this clip, and then Eric, let's get your thoughts on it. Justin Brannan's going to ask Miranda about how much money has been seized by the sheriff's office, and he has no idea. Nor does he know if there was ever any money seized from one of these raids. Apparently the New York City Police Department is responsible to do all the vouchering. Now, I don't necessarily believe that. If that is true and that is the case, it's still your office had conducted the raid. Your office is overseeing it. So you would still be responsible to work in conjunction because you have members of the New York City Police Department working with you. You should still know how many raids you've conducted, how much cash has been seized from businesses. The other thing I want you to take note of is Justin Brannan's asking him where his forfeiture money goes, right? What account is for his forfeiture money? And he doesn't know. He has no idea. And then Justin Brannan tells him how much money he has in his forfeiture account and how much money has been put in the forfeiture account from 2023 when he was the sheriff. And he doesn't know. So right there, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, wow, this guy has no idea how much money the sheriff's office has seized last year. And he doesn't even know where it goes. So can he be trusted? Can the integrity of this cash be trusted? I don't think so, because he doesn't even have any records of it. So here we go. You're going to listen to the illustrious sheriff in New York City right now.
Sheriff does not seize cash from any of the locations. NYPD seizes cash for safekeeping and investigative review when necessary. To the best of your knowledge, has any sheriff's office employee during any inspection of any of those shops ever seized any cash?
During padlock to protect operations?
Yeah.
I do not believe so.
Okay, which asset forfeiture account does seized cash get deposited into?
If we haven't seized the cash, I think I could probably get that for you. If there's any seized cash by the sheriff's office, what asset forfeiture accounts they utilize, I can probably come back and be able to give you that information. I don't have that available right now.
Okay, because NYPD, right, they have an asset forfeiture account, and the Office of the Sheriff asset forfeiture account, or is there another account? There was a controller's report for FY23. The ending balance for the Office of the Sheriff asset forfeiture account was about $867,000, with about $295,000 in revenue from that year. So do you have a projected revenue from the asset forfeiture for FY25?
I do not.
Does the seized cash fund any specific programs within DOF?
No, you from asset forfeiture generally. I mean, there are rules and regulations about how you can utilize any money that's taken for asset forfeiture, and there are specific guidelines to that. So I don't have that information available, but I think one of the things you can do is for training and other things like that. But it's very specific about the use, and we have somebody else in the office that's assigned to taking care of that. So there would be the person that would speak to the particulars on that, or I can find out more for you at a later time.
But right here today, do you have a total amount for cash that's been seized at these inspections?
Okay, two different questions, right? Asset forfeiture and the general nature of where we get funding from, that may come from various resources not related to cannabis enforcement. We're talking about cannabis enforcement since padlock to protect. The vouchering process has been designated with New York City, NYPD, New York City Police Department. So that currently, they are the ones who voucher the property depending on the circumstances of the location. They will either voucher it as safekeeping, or they will voucher it as investigatory evidence depending on the different circumstances. So it will depend on the circumstances of each in particular inspection and how we got there.
But you don't have a total number for how much?
I do not. I can definitely get the information afterwards by conferring with the New York City Police Department.
Thank you.
You gotta love it. You know, first of all, before I even comment, I just gotta say, our friends and listeners are hysterical. They pay attention to detail. I saw the same thing. Timothy's Travels. Yeah, he says, Dim, you have the same outfit on. Brother, I'm a simple guy. I'm living by RV. I love traveling, so I only have so much space. I'm a t-shirt and jeans guy. Throw a slap on a t-shirt, put on my jeans. I don't even do my hair. Throw my hat on, and I'm ready to go. But with that being said, I did have my hat backwards here. Now I got my hat forwards. But how funny is it, John? What a moron. What I tell you, the other day we were talking, I said, do you think he's a moron? Or do you think he's a moron and he's corrupt, or both? And apparently he's definitely both. Because I've said this all the time. I've met some of the most unintelligible people. And when it comes to money, they can tell you exactly what's in their account. And if you owe them $50, they don't forget. But yet he's the New York City Sheriff, and he doesn't even know the bank account that the money gets seized and gets forwarded to, especially when it comes to asset forfeiture. I can tell you police officers with less than 2 years on the job of the NYPD, and they know exactly which bank money gets deposited to for the NYPD. So this is the most ridiculous statement here. I definitely agree. I definitely believe that this sparked the probe. He's a pure idiot, and he's going to cause his own demise.
Absolutely. It was 100% this testimony. So Brandon points out fiscal year 23, their asset forfeiture has 867,000 in it, right? So they have 867,000 in the account. He doesn't know what the account. He doesn't know what the money funds. He doesn't know what the money funds in the account at all. So he's got 867,000 in that account. 295,000 of it gets put in fiscal year 23. He tells him there's no money that's been put in from forfeiture. I mean, the whole thing is, it's like, regardless of if there were allegations of impropriety, regardless of that fact, just this testimony alone sparks an audit. It's like, wait, what's going on? What are you guys doing over there? The mayor should have, if the mayor was competent, he would have jumped in immediately and called him and been like, what is going on over there? And he would have sent his people there. Show us what you guys are doing. And again, we pointed this out not only at this testimony, but prior, when they were doing all of these media tours with the raids that they were conducting on the marijuana shops. And we were saying, how are they inventorying all of this evidence? How are they inventorying all of this stuff? Like, it doesn't look like it's being done properly if you're just throwing it on tables to do a media representation. So I mean, that it's not shocking to me whatsoever that this sparked. The other thing that's being alleged is that not only is the money not being accounted for properly, but also that he's going around asking businesses to donate to his organization. And if businesses don't donate to his organization, then enforcement action will happen. That was previously alleged a while back. A business that 50 Cent owned actually sued the New York City Police Department over a police captain in the 72nd precinct, where he was saying the same thing, that they were threatening enforcement action against my business if I didn't donate money to Hurricane for Puerto Rico. I think ultimately that lawsuit did get thrown out, but that was alleged prior. So we have the two allegations now sparking from the sheriff's office. The third thing that I think that really needs to be looked at is, if we're not properly accounting for the money, are we properly accounting for the product, right? The stuff that Eric Adams, when he sniffed it at the press conference, the marijuana, the illegal marijuana. If you're not properly accounting for the money, are you going to properly account for the criminal evidence as a result of this? And that's the other thing. What are your thoughts around that, Eric?
Well, Eric Adams did say that he samples the product, right? I mean, and first of all, when it comes to Eric Adams, I thought that was the most ridiculous thing. We imagine, and we see numerous times, right? The NYPD is very they don't have a good PR campaign, but they have a good PR campaign when it comes to showing the public search and seizures, especially when it comes to large narcotics, or it comes to a large seizure of of ammunition and firearms. They do a great job of showing the public the seizures that they have. Could you imagine if we had a cop in uniform or a white shirt leadership from the NYPD? There's a complete failure, but even they don't do that. Could you imagine they grab a large pillow of weed and start sniffing it like Eric Adams did? It's the most unprofessional thing. It's crazy what goes on in this administration. But of course, Eric Adams always gets an extreme amount of leniency and gets a pass, unlike any other mayor that we would see or anyone else in his position would get, especially a uniformed cop. Could you imagine a uniformed cop grabbing that and go, it's the most ridiculous thing. But of course, as I said before, and I think he sparked his own investigation, Miranda, because you're the New York City Sheriff. And I think he should have the dollar amount to a T, especially you know that something's going to be questioned. You're responsible. You have large amount of seizures. That's probably predominantly the majority of the work for a New York City Sheriff is repossessions in civil nature and also retrieving a large amount of seizures when it comes to funds. So the fact that he doesn't even know and the fact that he says there's zero, that's insane. And I think that was the point when, wait, what do you mean zero? Okay, maybe I don't have the exact number. Maybe you're off with a couple of dollars. That's okay. But you could say this is a substantial amount, and maybe it's some odd, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less than 200,000. But the fact that he's not even in the ballpark is absolutely ridiculous. It just shows the ineffectiveness, or that he's purposely trying to deflect it because there's money there's money being hidden. So that's what you're laughing. It must be a funny comment here.
No, because I'm thinking of the scene at Casino when he goes, it's the last time they ever gave street guys like us anything this valuable again. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the movie Crumbs. I see it all happen.
Oh, this movie's coming. Who do you want to play you?
You're gonna have Scorsese play it. So Yvette wants to know if we could talk about the protest yesterday. Yeah, I got a ton of clips from that.
We'll get in there, no problem.
Before we do, I want to bring up to the stage our good friend Sammy Ravelo. Sammy is a retired NYPD lieutenant. He is one of the lead organizers for the Dominicans for Trump. So we just want to hear a little bit about Sammy's story, and then we're going to get into some more New York City issues. 100% we're going to touch those protests. So at this time, I just want to bring to the stage our good friend, Sammy Ravelo. Sammy, what's up, my brother?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Great to touch base with guys, from the old days. What's going on? How's it going? Love what you guys doing.
Hey, Sammy, how you doing, brother? What's going on? Listen, I said before, we definitely crossed paths in the Bronx. I just don't remember where, but listen, you've been doing some big stuff here. We got Dominicans for Trump. You got a rally out there. How'd it go?
No, it went great. Ironically, there was a counter protest for that rally that, 8 elected officials prepared, and to throw at us. And even with that, and even with the fact that, our community pretty much is afraid to say, the Dominican community, I would say, all the elected officials are Democrats. So, no surprise there that, the community was a little afraid, but, the reason why we did it and in the place that we did it, was significant. And I tell you, I've been getting a lot of positives from the community. The community's overwhelmingly, for Trump. And but I've been getting a lot of negatives. So when we had that phone conversation, Eric, I'm telling you right now, I do not have suicidal tendencies. I don't want to kill myself in case I get found in a ditch somewhere, and they say it's suicide.
You haven't hung out with Hillary Clinton at all, right?
Sammy Ravelo did not kill himself. What about Puff Daddy? Is Puff Daddy going to kill himself? I say Puff Daddy didn't kill himself either.
I don't. Well, Puffy has a lot of things he's got to answer, and I'm sure he's got a lot of people around him that are afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Sammy, what? I know. I believe it was Espelot that gave you a counter protest, right? How did numbers look compared to your numbers? You're out there holding this Dominican for Trump rally. What was that, and why did you hold the Dominican for Trump rally?
Well, I did the Dominicans for Trump rally out of reaction to a video that Espaillat had, where he kind of was telling the Dominican community that why are we going to vote for Trump? He's going to take our food stamps away. So it's called a food stamp video, and it made, it went viral. And that's really the reason, if I had to say, I kind of say, wait a minute, this is BS. Not only do we have every elected official that's, a lefty, they keep voting for stuff we don't like. I was already tight over a piece of legislation that he signed, where he allows, allowing men to compete in women's sports. That's like a red line for me, and he voted for that in Congress. It didn't pass because right now it's a Republican Congress, so they're holding the line on that so far. But it's just a matter of time. And I keep thinking, like, wow, I don't know if you guys remember, just 25 years ago, the Democratic Party was the working man's party. It's like one of these things. The most controversial thing that they were fighting was gay marriage, and I was all for it. Yeah, But now we have this crazy gender ideology, and we have an economy that sucks. No, Democrats have no respect for law and order. Yeah, I mean, zero. They go into every precinct and say that we've got your back, and then when it comes time to vote, they go the other way. And here we are still taking pictures with them and praising them and all that other nonsense. So I finally said it's time. I'm not gonna I'm gonna start giving my community another voice. And a vibrant democracy, and you guys know this. There's always two opposite voices that compete, because you don't want to let one voice go all the way to one side, because that's called fascism. And so we need to start, that's what's happening in our community. So I'm nobody, but I'm hoping to be that start of something that, hey, listen, we don't like this. And I tell you, a lot of all these crazy leftist ideas, this gender ideology, right now, and I have to get this in, and I apologize, guys, but I know you have a lot of people from the state watching your show. But there's a proposal in the ballot right now where they pretty much want to take the rights away from parents. A lot of people don't know this, and they disguise it as, I believe it's something about equality, something very DEI-ish. We got to be careful. And then when these things pass and it's right in our face, we're surprised. Like, how did we let this happen? We let this happen because a lot of us, were quiet. So, I'm the type of guy that I don't like to keep quiet. I like to, take action.
I think it's interesting. I'm glad that you brought that up, actually, because what you're talking about here is Prop 1, right? So everyone, our friends, thanks, John, definitely. We were just talking about this the other day on an X Space, and definitely something that's been coming up in my thoughts. And it's like, thank God I'm in New York. And I say to myself, at this point, I homeschool my kids right now, my little ones. I would not put my kids in school, especially right now with facing this Prop 1. It's the most ridiculous thing what's going on in New York City. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So we talk about, of course, we talk about gender ideology, but we talk about identity politics a lot on this podcast and how it's affected law enforcement, but it's affected society. I mean, it's even affected to the point that we have a rally, right? Dominicans for Trump, because at this point we have to identify and say, hey, look, we're Dominican, right? Because if you ask me, the Democratic Party, they love labels. They love to box in minorities and label them. Well, you have to be a Dominican for Democrats, so you have to be a Dominican for Kamala Harris. So how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the Democratic Party? Because in my opinion, I think it's very discriminatory. And just the fact of what you just brought up when it comes to food stamps or some type of assistance, that the assumption is that all Dominicans are on some form of assistance. And that's not the case at all. We have all walks of life, and we have all different various economic status amongst Dominicans. So I find that insulting, and I find it discriminatory upon the Democrats. And that's where I have a problem with the Democratic Party. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, trust me. Do we have 10 hours? But I actually tweeted about this right after my rally. The biggest, I've received the most vile comments, racist comments that you can ever have, only because I left the Democratic Party. That had it been the other way around, all these people would be rallying about me that, hey, listen, he's being discriminated against, and let me tell you, people are tired of that, especially, I'm going to speak for the people around me, and, which They're tired of the identity. Why can't just be one? I love to go back to the 80s when we actually used to chop. We used to bust each other's chops. I used to call, my Italian friends one name, and, they used to call me Adomo, and I was cool with that. Now you can't even say that because they're going to start thinking that, you're racist, or it's everything in the book, misogynist. So I've been called all that in the first 24 hours after I left the Democratic Party, which is ironic, and you're tired. And I think just before I came on, I don't know, John, I think you were mentioning something about the city gets away with everything. But it's because of that. They'll put race, they'll put gender, they'll put a victim behind everything that they do in order not to get questioned. And people are starting to think. I'm definitely starting to see through that. And you don't want an America like that. So I was unfortunate I had to do Dominicans for Trump rally, but it was, and I'm going to tell everybody out there, the only reason why I did that is because I needed to break that ice with my Dominican community. But it should just be Americans for Trump, and I would want to go back to that America. I really would.
Yeah, I think the Democratic Party, I mean, it's everyone says, oh, New York City's a Democratic stronghold. It was true about 30 years ago. New York City was 86% Democrat. My parents were Democrats. I was actually a registered Democrat early on in my life as well. And so at that point, I mean, New York City was a Democratic stronghold. That is not the case anymore. I mean, so we've had the governor election was proven that we've actually have polls that lean very left showing Donald Trump almost within 4 points of Kamala Harris. So, and this is from a city and from a state that the problem is voter apathy and people not wanting to not only not get involved in the political politics, they don't understand it. So like you highlighting Prop 1 here, most people don't understand it. What you're being told is the way that it's being sold to you is that, oh, you need to pass Prop 1 or else they're going to take away your abortion rights in New York State, which is a complete, utter lie. No one's taking away abortion rights. I don't even know why this is a national issue. I get it being a state issue, but I don't understand I don't understand how it ties into the bigger national picture, because the federal government, the states have the power. So, obviously, so New York City is definitely not taking it away. Prop 1, and a good friend of our, Cozy Wellness, he actually said something the other day. He said, if you don't understand the proposition, vote no. If you don't know what that proposition is, if you're fully not aware of that proposition, vote no, because all you're doing is giving more power to the government. And he goes, so if I don't know the proposition, I vote no. I think that's a good thing. But we're saying right now on this show, definitely vote no to Prop 1, because what's that doing? It's removing parental rights. It's giving your children over to the government. That's basically what it is. The government will be able to make decisions for your children. This is unholy. This is ungodly. This is a war on children. This is a war on religion. This is a war on families. So Prop 1, absolutely no. And that's the biggest failure, I think, that we've seen in New York. Sammy, what are your thoughts about New York? Could Trump win New York? Could we flip New York?
It's going to be very hard. Very, very hard, because the Democrats, they see the writing on the wall and they're strong-arming everybody. I'm going to give you just a small example. At my rally, it was totally organic. Everybody there was a patriot that wanted to be there, that just said, you know what? We don't care what other people think. And the funny thing is that every quarter was packed with people that they didn't want to actually come into the plaza because they didn't want to, but they were supporting us, So I would say there were over 150 people just around the plaza, just watching and being supportive. Our Connor rally had the aides, the staff of all these, elected officials. There was the president of the unions, of the teachers union was there with a few of their staff. It's totally pathetic, where the actual unions are in bed with the politicians, for one party. the point that I'm trying to make is that they're going to put all the stops in order to win the state. But one thing that I can tell you is Trump is making it competitive. That if you would have asked me 3 months ago, I would tell you, hell no, which is very close, very close, very close. And if everybody comes out and vote, I believe that it's doable.
That's why I say, listen, unfortunately, my career had to be cut short. I could no longer do what I was paid and trained to do. But at the same time, doing this podcast, but I also feel blessed. I feel blessed that I'm able to be home and homeschool my children. Because right now, if I was in New York City, I would absolutely not want my kids going to school. With everything that went on from the mandate to at this point with Prop 1 and all the gender identity that's going on in schools right now, especially what's driven and motivated when it comes to transgender and just the conversations just about sex in general, right? I don't have a problem with transgender. I don't have a problem with gay, but I have a problem discussing kids with sex with my 5-year-old. Period, on any level. So I'm fortunate, thank God, that I could actually homeschool my kids right now. And I can tell you what, I'm actually quite impressed with homeschooling. I wish I was homeschooled because you really get to be selective, and your kids have an opportunity to really learn. So not everybody could do it. I'm fortunate to be in this position. But what's interesting, Cafecito Break, Sammy, I think you know who they are. They're fantastic. Good morning, Cafecito Break. Makes a great comment. She says the Democrats have made being a proud American racist. You're absolutely right. Listen, I travel right now in retirement by RV. If anybody wants to travel by RV, it's the most free you could ever be in this country. And it's an amazing, right? I don't hold on to possessions anymore. I hold on to memories because possessions are temporary and memories are forever. And I drive around the entire country. And what's sad, it's come to the point that I could drive past someone's home. I could drive past an apartment building. And I can tell you, if there's an American flag in front of that location, I can tell you who they voted for and who they're going to vote for in this election. And that's what's really sad. It's come to that point. That's come to the point with identity politics, even when it comes to the American flag. Do you find that when it comes to the Dominican community, that they're shamed? Are they afraid of putting their flag out? Are they afraid of putting out the American flag? Is there shame? Because it seems that the Democrats want to shame them into actually being Americans for Trump. And not just Dominicans. I hate that we have to labelize them, and I get why you did it, just to reflect on hypocrisy. But it should be Americans for Trump. How do you feel about that? I mean, is the community, do they feel shame to put out the American flag?
Well, sorry. One of the things that I don't think they're shameful about putting the American flag. I think if you go into the core of the Dominican community, they'll probably put out a Dominican flag before they'll put out an American flag, only because they want to. Not because they hate America. The Dominican Republic is probably one of the most solid American allies. We're purely democratic. They're all corrupt, but it's a democratic country. But I can say that. Before I continue, I just want to make sure that this rally obviously wasn't just me. I want to give a shout out to the guys from Manhattan North Republicans, the Northern Manhattan Republicans. Edwin. He helped out, so I just want to make sure. And the Bronx Conservative Club also helped out. Pat McManus, my buddy, he also helped out. But going back to your question, we're very proud. There's 85,000 Dominicans that have served in our military. One of the things that I do is I founded a nonprofit called the Dominican Veterans for Trump. And the Dominican Veterans of America. And the reason why I also did that as well is because I want to start teaching Americanism to our community. There's 5 kids that died in the wars of Iraq and Afghanistan that were from the Dominican Republic, that were born there, that they gave this life to this country. So one of the things the reason why I founded that is, like I said, not to carve out something for ourselves, but it was to, micro target that community and let them know, hey, listen, we served in this country. We love this country. This country loves you back, and teach that to my community. That yes, if you come out with your American flag, it is okay. I think, at least here in the Bronx, it's not taught enough. And it starts in our schools. Americanism needs to be taught more in our schools. Eric, you said something very, very telling. You're able to homeschool your kids, but there's, in reality, there's thousands and thousands of people that can't. So they rely on the government to school their children. And that's important that, we trust our government with what they're teaching. And look what they want to teach. They want to start teaching a 5 or 6-year-old, gender ideology and gender education. And, I mean, what country are we turning to,
No, it's crazy. I mean, my household, we both work, my wife and I, and we rely on school system to educate our children, and that's part of the other reason we had to leave. We had no choice. Religious exemptions were were repealed in New York State. So children in New York State aren't eligible for religious exemptions. So we have someone on the chat now talking about, well, people have to leave because of abortion rights. Well, what about religious freedom rights? You have no problem that I had to leave the state because of that. You had no problem I couldn't work or eat or do any of those things. I mean, so yeah, I'm with you, but sometimes you got to vote with your feet as well, And, that was an issue that, I think is still a big problem in New York, and things that need to be repealed. I mean, we have to get back to not only states' rights, but individual rights, right? And I think New York I applaud everybody that's fighting back in New York, So for those of you on, we got about 586 people in the live chat right now. We appreciate all of you. We just spoke about the New York City's sheriff alleged pay-to-play scheme. We have coming up at 10 o'clock, Louder with Crowder is going to reveal some more evidence about Varmagate and some more undercover videos. So we'll bring that to you as it breaks. But right now with us, we have Sammy Ravelo, another retired NYPD lieutenant, one of the main organizers for the Dominican for Trump rally. And Sammy, what's New York like? What's your take going on in the city? I mean, obviously I got up in the background right now, the protests from last night. There were mass arrests again. Like, what are you seeing? What do you think of not only the crime, but what are you thinking around the corruption scandals that are breaking out all over New York City?
Holy God. Where do I start, man? I mean, Eric Adams, I said it, I had nothing against him. There's no agenda. I know a lot of my buddies like him. I actually have met Eric a couple of times, but he may go down as probably the worst mayor in my lifetime. I came as a little young boy in '84, which is 40 years, and now so I have a nice sample. We've had bad ones, and Eric is going to be up there with the worst. I mean, he's not going to escape this. Within the police department, something that you want. If one of the things that you, as an executive of any city, you want to be on point with your appointment, it's got to be that commissioner. You got to have that guy that's going to be a solid guy, that's going to be a solid guy with the community, and is going to be a solid guy with the rank. And, and you got to let him be commissioner, not some shadowy guy behind the scenes. And I know you guys have touched upon all this, but you're asking me my opinion. And Eric Adams has been like, there's no guidance, there's no direction. Now look what's happening with Anthony Miranda, and God knows how many other people they're looking at. So I think we're just touching the surface here. And I just want to say one thing before you continue. You guys think that you guys have a lot of content right now because Eric Adams is there? If Jumani becomes mayor, you guys are gonna have. Oh my God, I think you're going to blow up. You guys are going to be probably the most listened podcast because what's going to happen in obviously City Hall. I'm not advocating I'm not advocating for them to leave Eric Adams there, but I'm just saying that that's the state of our city. Seriously, that if they take this guy out, every policy would be worse. As a matter of fact, you see what you have showing up right there? There probably be, Jumani, for all will probably be telling these protesters to, arrest the cops, So that's how bad I think the city would turn.
Listen, I'm not going to argue with it. We argue with you there, right? I mean, listen, we think Eric Adams is a moron. He's a complete ineffective leader. He has no managerial skills. But sometimes, John and I both discuss this quite often, and we do believe sometimes that things have to get worse before they get better. And I've used this ideology and analyzed this and try to make the comparison. You know, John Gotti was loved by his community, but he's a total criminal. At the same time, will we want John Gotti to remain a member of the community? No, he belonged in jail. He's out committing crime. And if Eric Adams is actually committing crime and facilitating what's going on with these probes, if there's actual teeth to it, should we still have him in office? Even if he was the best guy, he would have to be removed. We need integrity. We need moral principle in office to actually move further so we do the right thing by the public. But with that being said, we're all former NYPD. We all believe in law enforcement. We all were proud of our service in the NYPD. What are your thoughts on Ed Caban? What are your thoughts on the allegations that surround him? What are your thoughts on Ed Caban's brother that is a twin, not identical, but looks just like him, having a security detail paid by taxpayer money for the New York City Police Department? And what are your thoughts on Ed Caban stepping down? Do you think that was the right move, or do you think that Ed Caban should have stayed in place as the commissioner?
Yeah. Okay. So full disclosure, I know Eddie personally, and matter of fact, you know, the first time I ever got to an RMP was Eddie Caban. He was the CPOP. He was one of the CPOP guys in the 4-0. And I remember hey kid, come on, let's go. I mean, he only had like five years, and he was studying for the sergeant's test at the time. So I just want to put it out there. I'm not going to personally, and I actually worked with his brother Ricky. We were undercovers together in narcotics. So you know, I don't want to comment on those two, only because I'm going to sound biased, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but we're not asking. We want your honest. We want your honest opinion. Just because I'll tell you right now, I thought he should have stepped down, but I thought everybody should have stepped down. And the fact that only he stepped down, I'm like, well, wait, why did he have to step down? So we want your opinion. You know, know the guy.
And let me tell you. So
give us your biased opinion. Like, what do you think?
So what happens is that, you know, obviously Eddie, you know, probably made a few mistakes with maybe some of the association that he had, and that's all I'll say about that. As far as stepping down, absolutely he should have stepped down, because what happens is that, you know, you're not going to effectively lead, and you guys know this. You know, we all know. You know, when we looked at a weak sergeant or a weak lieutenant, they led without any credibility. Nobody followed those guys. You know, but you know, and listen, and a good leader is not the guy that you went out all the time and drank a beer with. That's not a good leader either. You know, a good leader is the guy that's going to tell you no, because you're going to get jammed up if you do that. No, you know, let's vouch for this because we don't need the bullshit. It's a guy sometimes is going to tell you, or when you were a supervisor, you were telling them. You know, when you get the guy that comes and tells you, hey, boss, appreciate you telling me that because this and this happened. You know, that's when you know, damn, I was a little bit of a dick with this guy, but you know, he kind of got it at the end. And you need that. And you know, Eddie was not going to be able, with absolute certainty, he was not going to be able to be effective. But let's all face it, Eddie was not in charge. It was Phil Banks. You know, so you know, I mean, great that Eddie was there. I think that's why Sewell left. You know, it was she's like, this is bullshit. You know. Do you think Ray Kelly, and I'm not a fan of Ray Kelly. I'm not going to tell you, and I think it was there too long, but you think Ray Kelly would have put up with that? Oh, or Bratton? You
absolutely
think
not.
These two men would have said, hey, yeah. Thank you, sir. Man, I have another, because that's pretty much what you did, you know.
Well, Bratton, I don't know about Bratton has, you know, completely. We see a different version of Bratton.
Not a fan either, by the way.
He's got a soft spot for Adams, but you know, my impression of Ray Kelly, also, you know, being a Marine, so I say Semper Fi, I don't think he would stand for it. Also, I do believe he's a man of fortitude. I do believe that his leadership style was effective in many ways. I think that micromanaging when it came to discipline is necessary. I don't think micromanaging is necessary when it comes to leadership and operational procedures. So I did see what was beneficial in him in his position, and I did see the flaws also. You know, I don't want to, you know, be like some sycophant for Ray Kelly, but in many cases, his operational procedure and him being the voice for the NYPD, that was necessary to keep that professional image. But yeah, that's why what's important about this podcast is we're not journalists, right? We're podcasters. We have a right to our opinions, our anecdotal experience. So you have a right to your opinion. You know, if you had a personal relationship and you're like, listen, he's a good guy, and this is my thoughts on him. But what we're trying to say here, at least for John and myself, our perception is Ed Caban has become the fall guy. We had done an episode about John Shell saying he was going to be the fall guy, but what we learned is Ed Caban is actually the fall guy. And what we're saying is, I believe a small unit leadership breakdown, and I'm sure you do too. You served the United States Navy, and what do we always do at every level is we take ownership. But how can it only be Ed Caban? What about the chiefs that were working underneath him? Don't they take ownership? If he had to step down, they had their eyes open. They work with him. Why are they not stepping down? And that's the point that we're trying to say. It's either one steps down, or they all step down, or no one steps down. So I think he was bamboozled at this point, and I think he was left to be the fall guy. And that's where I really have a problem with Eric Adams. And I think he puts people in positions because he thinks they're useful idiots. I'm not saying Ed Caban is an idiot. I will tell you this. I think he's the most insignificant police commissioner, whether he was allowed to be or not. He's by far the most insignificant police commissioner. But I think that he's the fall guy, and I hope he goes out singing.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you're right. But that's my point. He was the police commissioner. And when you're the police commissioner, you are the face of the NYPD. He was the police commissioner, but he really wasn't in charge, and he has to be the fall guy because you're the face. You know what I mean? Like I'm the mayor and John is the police commissioner, but you're the one who's making all the decisions, Eric. When shit hits the fan, you know what, John? Are we allowed to curse, right?
I do. I got a terrible mouth. I try not to, but
I don't want
John's F-bombs. Like, all right, that's fine.
We'll send you the bill, Tammy. Don't worry about it.
Now they started to know how we actually talk in the locker room. But you're the guy, you're the face, John. But Eric is the one making the decisions. Shit hits the fan. I'm gonna have to fire you, John. I'm sorry. I know you're not really making the decisions, but you're the face. So I got to show that I'm rallying the cage. I think you're 100% right. He is the fall guy, but I think a lot more guys are gonna fall. I just think I think this was just to stop the bleeding. To be honest with you. I think a lot more is going to come out of this. I don't know what you guys are seeing, but I'm hearing that, other commissioners are going to. I think Phil Banks' brother, I think, just had to step down.
Yeah. Well. David Banks he just announced his resignation. So did the other New York City health commissioner just announced his resignation. Lisa Zornberg, head of the New York City's legal counsel, chief legal counsel, just resigned as well. To me, and I hear everybody, the finest, the finest is on here. He's saying he took the job. Nobody forced him to do it. He's dirty. Listen, he hasn't been arrested. He's under investigation right now. And so is Phil Banks. So is David Banks. So is Sheena Wright. So is Eric Adams. So is Anthony Miranda. So are all of these people that are just as high level as Eddie Caban. So, yeah, I was calling for Eddie Caban to step down, but he shouldn't. I wasn't not just calling for Eddie Caban to step down. I was calling for all of them to step down because how could you effectively lead? We had other high-ranking members of the New York City Police Department that are entrapped in that same investigation. So we had a lot of the Latino organizations that were saying it's because, it's a racist thing. And I don't believe so at all. I don't think so. I hear them now. But I hear what they're saying, and that's the appearance. Why did Eddie Caban have to step down when Phil Banks is still in power? Because everyone on this chat saying it. You're saying it. A lot of people on this chat are saying that we said it. Phil Banks is running the New York City Police Department. So if anybody's got to step down, it's got to be him first.
100%.
But he's still hanging in. And I think that's the thing where we're like, what the hell's going on here? I do think, I think we're going to see somebody really big step down next week. I do. Or potentially even later this week. I do. But, it's wild. Yes. Was he running the police department? No. Kaz Daughtry and John Shell were running wild, right? I think that's the same reason. I think you're 100% right. I think that's the same reason that Keechant Sewell left as well. But we don't know. We don't really know. Was it just to stop the bleeding, get the press off their back? Probably. I think
I'm
you're right.
assuming. I don't know.
You're right. I think so.
Because I'm hearing that there's going to be a couple of more commissioners, and that are probably going to be. I mean, it's a total scam and racket. What was, and I get it. A lot of people are very close to Eric Adams, and I know a lot of people were very close to Eddie, and the first time that probably we had somebody that we knew that was probably up there. But if this is the result, then this is not what we wanted, this is embarrassing. So and by the way, you were 100% right into calling. Could have been my brother running the police department at the time. Could have been, when allegations like that start, you're not an effective leader anymore. And I'm going to tell you, Eric Adams is getting very close, as if he's not there, of being an ineffective, you hear this, an ineffective mayor, where, it doesn't matter what he does, he's not going to be able to fix anything. He's getting very close. But I don't see him, when your way of governing is DEI, you got to make appointments based on diversity, equity, and inclusion first. When that means you're picking from a wider, obviously wide pool, rather than picking from the best. And I keep telling people all the time, there's nothing wrong with always picking the best. People assume that the best means a white man, but that's not the case. At the end of the day, sugar, the cream rises to the top. So, we got to get away from DEI politics. That's why I left the Democratic Party. It was tiring.
Well, we can see that one out the window, even if that was the case, that's a complete lie, right? They just put Donlin as the interim PC. He's the white guy. He's already has dirt on him. There's a probe to his home. Apparently a 20-year-old document they were able to locate it. I can't find a document that I have from 3 days ago, but somehow a document that's 20 years old, he knows exactly where that document is. So, I think we could debunk that whole thing. But again, Mayor Eric Adams is the one that said we have an image problem. And I think, again, that's the insult we see from the Democratic Party, because make no mistake about it, right? Eric Adams is from the Democratic Party, and they love to put labels on minorities. Why couldn't we say that Ed Caban, let me tell you about Ed Caban's career and what led to him become the police commissioner? We didn't hear that. What we heard was he's the first Hispanic police commissioner. That's what we heard, all about image. And I think that's insulting, right? Whether he was given the opportunity to be the police commissioner or not, I still say he was extremely insignificant. And, I have to agree. And I think it was the finest who said that. No one forced him. He took the job. And I think that's the problem. What John and I have been saying is that when is someone going to stand on moral principle and say, hey, if you want me to take this job, then you need to give me the authority. And it's my opinion, that's why Carmen Beth did not take the job as police commissioner. She had the opportunity to be that first female black face, but she said if Banks is going to be in charge, then I'm not taking this job.
Right.
Job. He doesn't want to be in a position to be a puppet. I don't think anybody should be a puppet, because Ed Caban, if that's the case, he's treated as a puppet, and now because he's the face, he's the fall guy, so he takes the blame also. As far as I'm concerned, I think Mayor Eric Adams has been ineffective since day one. And again, he doubled down on this mandate. What do you think about what's going on with Dr. Varma? He doubled down and didn't apologize, say we made mistakes based on a lie. What he said was people didn't follow the rules. And we have cops that were terminated from the police department. So what are your thoughts on when it came to the mandate, how it affected the Dominican community?
Listen, like anything else, we all follow the rules. We believe the government. If the government is saying, that's how it's being thought in the community. If the government is saying we got to do this, you see the elected officials all getting. That was the idea. Like, get everybody to comply. And again, I tell people, the Dominican community is a compliant community, overall. And now it turns out, obviously you had your share of people that had their doubts that they didn't do it, but now, like a lot of people were duped. And now, they're asking the same questions. Why did you lie to us? And I'm not surprised. Eric is not going to own up to whatever he did. He's going to say, yeah, you know, I was acting on the information I had at the time and all the blah, 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 you know. And like Fauci and everybody else, they're going to just, you know, in the meantime, I don't know if you guys got vax. Well, I know your story. I'm sorry. But I took the vax because I complied. You know, I haven't been the same. You know, I can't trace it back to that. So I'm screwed. God knows what kind of experiment they're doing on us.
I took it too. I took it also, and I'm going to assume that probably was the same thing for you. You were in the Navy. I was in the Marines. They gave me like 30 shots. I don't know what they gave me. So I was like, all right, one more. You know, I didn't put any thought into it.
Right.
You know, and John actually put thought into it on his religious beliefs. And I had taken the vaccine. I took the vaccine way before the actual mandate. But once I saw the mandate was in place and I saw the way the political drive behind it, I said, wow, I have to support my brothers and sisters, and I'm in complete opposition for them having to be forced. And again, I jumped on board at the point where I said, I'm not going to these restaurants that are banning people that are not vaccinated. I support them. You know, I didn't put any thought to getting the shot, but for the people that didn't want it, for them to get forced out of their careers and to have 7 days to make a decision on what you're going to do with your life, I think it's completely insulting. It's a slap in the face. And that's, you know, why I support people like John, especially we have Marlon Bethel. I don't know if you have an opportunity to see. He's been on here several times. He was a well-skilled investigator in the NYPD, and he was terminated. He didn't even vest out or retire. He was terminated from his employment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Ron Layson says Carmen Beth stood on her principles and withdrew from PC consideration after meeting with Adams and found out she would be led by the nose from City Hall. So before we get off, one more topic before we get off Ed Caban, I want to go to these protests that happened last night. There was a protest in New York City completely out of hand last night. They got off and they actually even went to some off-duty members' houses the past few nights. We've had protesters show up there, anarchists. Some people want to call them BLM. Some people want to call them Palestinian protesters. Some people want to call them whatever. They're anarchists. And what they're doing is they're actually, at this point, they're overstepping the boundaries of the First Amendment. They're illegally committing acts of domestic terrorism. I mean, they're going to off-duty cops' homes in an attempt to intimidate them from taking enforcement action. It's what's known as domestic terrorism, people. So before we get off that, just one thing, because this is the argument that keeps coming around. So we've had the new interim police commissioner, Tom Donnellan. His home was recently raided by the FBI as well, and they took documents from his home. It's coming out now that apparently he had applied for top secret security clearance. And I don't know how true this is, but this is the rumor. He had applied for a top secret security clearance. And when he did that, it sparked an investigation because he had an open investigation on him that he had these documents in his home. So if that's the truth, we'll see, that'll come out. But it is the same exact thing that happened to Ed Caban, right? He had the Fed show up his house and search his home. So should he have to step down is the question.
That's a great question. I thought it was a decent appointment to begin with. You know, you give somebody from outside a Fed, you know, maybe it's going to bring some kind of. But this is their day, whatever it was. I don't know if it was politically motivated. I really don't know, because it really came out of left field. If this is something that's going to persist, then he's going to have to step down, which again shows you that Eric Adams may come down as probably the worst mayor, because your appointments have to be solid. You know, and now you go and make a second appointment, and in less than 3 weeks, you have this. Oh my God, it's deflating. I can only imagine what the guys, you know. I mean, I know what they're feeling like. They're feeling like, wow, you know, what's going on here, you know. So Eric Adams has to stop the bleeding soon. I don't know honestly where this came from, but if this is going to persist, then you know, absolutely, you know, he's going to have to resign. You know, somebody there has to lead. You know, the police commissioner has to lead with credibility.
This is something that we you know, when it comes to this podcast, I think we've been a step ahead when it comes to the news. And our perspective has been pretty much on point because we're giving real perspective, anecdotal experience. That's why it's great having you on here, Sammy. Now we have 3 police perspectives here. And when it comes to this protest at this at the cops' residence involved in the subway shooting in Brooklyn, it's reflective of what we said in this podcast. I would say probably about a year ago, maybe somewhere more than that. If you remember, I don't know if you saw it, there was a female police officer. I think she was a redhead, and she was being just completely demoralized by some agitators, and they were reading out her 58. And so what John and I had expressed to the public, friends and listeners to the podcast, weighed in with us that we see the future when it comes to the 58. It's not about transparency and about accountability. It's to demean police officers, to destroy their careers. But what does it also do? It also makes police officers corruptible. Because with this 50A and police officers being doxxed, they're going to face extreme adversity and even potential violence. We just saw it. Could you imagine you're a police officer now, and now you have to make a decision if you're going to fire your weapon, and if you do, are you going to have 1,000 or 2,000 rioters at your home? And now you have to protect your family. And you can no longer rely on a woke police department, the NYPD, to protect you because they're not going to put anything in place. You can't rely on the unions. They're not going to stand up for you. So you're on your own. So what John and I had said, and I'm curious on your thoughts about this, Sammy, is that the 58 in doxing is going to lead to corruption of police officers because the police officers have to keep their families safe. So they may be in a position to be corrupted so that they can keep their families safe, so that they don't have to worry about Rel and 1,000 rioters coming to their home and trying to set things on fire and put in fear. And as far as I'm concerned, this was a dry run and a test to see the response of the police department. And an epic fail, right? Rumor has it the police department did not make arrest. Not only, this is the rumor that we have, not only did they not make arrest, if that's in fact true, I don't know if they actually made any arrest or not, but this is the rumor we're getting from credible sources. No one was charged with acts of terrorism, which is exactly what they should be charged with. So what are your thoughts on the 58 and surrounding the events of this particular protest?
Well, let me tell you, it's sad. It's sad, and all that stuff. You know, let's put the police or let's put the cops' info out there. It all starts, you know, from obviously inner cities. The idea was that these cops, they come from upstate. There's all these white cops. They come, they police, and they go back to the suburbs. At the same time, where they're trying to change the face of the police department, make it all inclusive. Where you have more people from the city and we comply with both, not realizing, oh shoot, the police department is now minority. I hate to use those words, but not realizing that a lot of the cops now live in the city. You're putting their information out there. Now they're going to show up to their homes. What the hell's going on? We don't have elected officials that actually see this for what it is and say, let's reverse it. And I think that's why we need, and it started with me, and it goes back to why I started the rally. We need to start actually pushing back in a lot of the things that we do, in order to, the police department complies with making the police department more representative of the city. Right now, the vast majority of cops are Dominicans. Now that we're talking about that, there's like around 4,000 to 5,000 Dominicans in the police department, which makes the majority. We're like the new Irish, and I don't think our elected officials see that. It doesn't change. I think it's a culture of let's hate the police, and that's some of the things that I think we need to change.
Yeah. So I just pulled a video up. I'm gonna play it. The first video I'm gonna get into is from last year. And even after this point, this video comes out from Rel or Relly Rebel. I like to call him New York City's the Deputy Commissioner of Anarchy because he's been allowed to basically operate with impunity. So he went from harassing police officers at these riots to Eric Adams and Eddie Caban signing this protest settlement agreement, which gives these protesters and rioters even more power and takes away authority from the New York City Police Department, which is why I honestly, if Eric Adams steps down, I don't think it's going to get any worse. It can't get any worse than this at this point unless they just start to take over people's homes, which they're attempting to do at this point, and they're still operating with impunity, because we've had these same individuals now show up at police officers' home, kicking their door, lighting NYPD hats on fire, and throwing it at their residents. There's a lot of people asking whose the name is. I'm absolutely not going to say the name of any officers' homes that were there. I'm not going to show any videos of any officers' addresses. They've been doxxed enough, and that's not going to happen on this show. So it doesn't matter who they are. But I'll show the ones that don't show that. But this is where it all starts, right? This is where it all starts. This is Eric Adams, New York City. So let me play this first video. Nothing happened here. So a lot of cops had sent me this video and say, look at this guy, look what he did. So I had posted about it. And then after I posted about it, and I said what crimes he did, he was subsequently arrested after. But if there was no media attention around it, he would have never been arrested. And look what happens. This is what comes out. So let me just get your thoughts first. On this after we show the video, is New York City doing a good job handling this? Let's watch this. This comes out last year for Eric Adams. This is Eric Adams, New York City.
Bitch, fuck you talking about, bitch? Now we getting away. You all right? Who's friend? Oh, that's that nigga.
You done, you done for that. You done for that. You done for that.
What is wrong with you, nigga?
You know damn well you done for that. Look at you.
Where that shit at?
And there's him with the windshield wiper. So they surround the car. The officer washes his windows. Probably they were throwing stuff on the windows as well. And he rips off the windshield wiper. And here he is bragging about it. Goes home and he's fine. Are we doing enough to stop these protests? Is Eric Adams handling, not to stop protests because protests are allowed, but when they turn illegal, like take over streets, take over sidewalks, take over train stations, take over bus stations, or is Eric Adams doing enough? Is the New York City Police Department doing enough?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Listen, this would have never happened probably under Giuliani. Giuliani would have had as many people collared as possible just to send the point. I'm not advocating for any of the mayors. I just want to make sure that, because I have my issues with each one of them. But at the very least, in that regard, there would have been enforcement. I know the police department that I probably, worked in, they would have probably, would have gone out and gotten this guy. Made it a point to go arrest him because you're not gonna and probably prosecute him for criminal miss and give him commute. They would have made a point. Right now, this hands-off approach is gonna get a lot of people. Well, it's not gonna get. It's getting a lot of people hurt. I mean, I'm in the Bronx right now, and I see it, and people are living in fear. And so to answer your question is no, we're not doing a good job. But I mean. It starts with the DA. The DA is not prosecuting anything. So now, the police department, what are you going to tell these guys? What are you going to, So the mayor has to, we got to do some things different. Let's put it this way.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Listen, John and I had brought a lot of media attention when it came to Rel because we said and we demanded for his arrest. Absolutely, he should be arrested for that.
100%.
A punk coward like that who's agitating and inciting riots, absolutely, we have to send a message. It's the broken windows theory. It's intrusive police work. We have to arrest him. Even if that windshield wiper costs $25, we have to send that message because it's the bigger picture. It's not the windshield wiper. It's the bigger picture of them imposing themselves. As far as I'm concerned, it's an act of terror. And that's what we see. And it just keeps building more and more. These are dry runs and these are tests, right? Just like dogs do. They sense, they sniff around and see how far they can push something. Kids do that. And we're seeing that also with these agitators. And Rel is growing. He pushes the envelope. And now it's gotten to the point where they're so bold that they're actually responding to police officers' homes. And again, like you said, John, fantastic. We're not going to release that information. But what's next? The next time someone takes action, that they're going to actually enter the home? And what's next after that? They're going to zip tie the family up and what? And torture them? And you know what? Some people may laugh at it and say, oh, that wouldn't happen. Really? I think it will happen. I think if we allow it, we are emboldening them and they start to realize, oh, we're winning. We're not going to get caught. There's no repercussions. There's no consequence. And that's what emboldens his psyche. I mean, this is a coward right here. Absolutely, he should have been arrested immediately. But it wasn't until there was any media attention. And that's a sad state of affairs. And police officers cannot rely on the NYPD leadership for their safety. And that's what's sad at this point.
I totally agree, 100%. It's not the point that it's $25. Oh, look what he did. I think, John, you posted something about the 290 shooting with the, it wasn't really about $2.90. Like, they want to oversimplify events, not realizing, no, wait a minute, there's a lot more to this. You can't just oversimplify things. It doesn't work that way. Wish it did, because once you start doing it, who's going to take the job? Who's going to take this job? And when people don't want to take the job, who do you get? I remember when the pay was so low that a few folks ended up coming on the job, that they were pulling in people actually with records, criminal records that were sealed. When I was coming through, that's a non-starter. That's a non-starter. If you ever had, they went to that. When they actually started giving better pay, they increased the level of the pool that we're getting. Right now, if people don't want to take this job, I don't know. Policing is in jeopardy right now, and nobody's really talking about this. We really need a change. I think somebody said something about the part being first. I think the department's too worried about, am I the first this? Am I the first that? I hate that, to be honest with you. The first this, the first, Latino, the first. Everybody's going to be the first. I'm the first from New Papua Guinea, it's not about being the first. It's about doing the job competently. I think we got to get back to that.
All right, so we got about 660 people on here. If you guys could just do us a favor, like, subscribe, share out the space. Let's get a few more people on here. I'm going to play two videos back to back. So I played you the video of Rel ripping the windshield wiper off. This is the video of him subsequently being arrested after who brought media attention to it. I want you to pay particular attention to his voice, because after that, I'm going to play only one video of, and it's not going to show you anything, of one of an off-duty cop's house where they not only kicked his door, they lit an NYPD hat on fire and threw it at his door with his family inside of it. That took place in Sunset Park in the 7-2 precinct. So I want you to pay on it. It's going to be two videos back to back. And then, Eric, let's get your thoughts. Here's the first one. I want you guys to pay particular attention to the voice.
Nigga right here, this nigga right here put out, I should be arrested for 6 crimes. And then they sent the U.S. Marshals to my crib and locked me up for the 6 crimes that he posted on his fucking podcast.
So you heard his voice, right? That's his voice. And now, here we go. Here.
We want justice! 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 We want justice!
We see how you ran off the porch, pussy. We see how you ran off the porch, pussy. Fucking pussy, come on! I told you your punk ass is gonna be viral, right, shit? You turn the lights out. We know you up there.
Yep.
We want justice.
We want justice!
Subway
We want justice!
So, Eric, what do you think? Does that voice sound familiar to you?
Yeah, of course. It's that punk coward, Rel. You and I spoke about it all the time. Total coward, but he's been emboldened because they're not addressing it properly. They're not cutting off the heads that pay these agitators because he, in fact, is a paid agitator. He's at BLM. He's at pro-Palestinian riots. He's just an opportunist that takes an opportunity who makes his living of chaos. This right here is an act of terror. Let's make no mistake about it. It's an act of terrorism. This is domestic terrorism. Why has the NYPD not addressed this properly? It's failed leadership. This is an epic fail. We have to protect our police officers, because when we don't protect our police officers, we're not protecting the public. We're failing the public, because the next time a man with a knife is running amok in a subway, if the police officers allow him to flee from their sight and he starts to cut and slash people, it's a whole different story. And the police officers are going to now they have to worry about CCRB, New York City Council, media, optics. And now what's going through their head? If I pull this trigger, am I going to have 1,000 people at my door? And hey, for most men and even women on the job, they're probably not worried about themselves, right? They're in a position where they know that their lives are on the line on a daily basis. But now you have to worry about your family, and that's a game changer. This is an act of terrorism. Make no mistake about it. The FBI should be involved in this immediately.
I agree 100%, you know, and by the way, you forgot about something, Eric. You know, right now it's being discussed that officers need to buy private insurance in order to get this job. It's being actively discussed in Albany right now. I mean, you imagine you're the cop running after that guy, trying to save lives. You know, it's not the 200, it's not the 2,096. I'm sure those guys weren't put there. Were put there because people were complaining about that. And that's a lot of people don't understand that. You know, these guys just didn't arbitrarily say, like, I'm going to put myself here, get the first guy that's jumping. So, you know, so I can, you know, probably shoot. So it doesn't work that way. I tell people, you know, they were there because they probably were getting a lot of people jumping the turnstile, whatever it is called now, and or fare evasion or whatever. They wanted to curb it. So they were put in this situation. But if you allow this to happen, you know, other people get hurt. Now we're at fault as well. But on top of that, now you're going to add to the cop the fact that he has to pay insurance. And if he gets into a shooting, he's going to have to pay more to keep his job. You know, it's just, it becomes so convoluted and it's so dangerous to even talk about this that, you know, I'm glad you guys are, you know, have this podcast and trying to, you know, make light of all this stuff.
Yeah, so two things. One, the insurance, there's not even a product that officers could buy. So it's absolutely insane. It's how out of touch with reality our politicians are. They want officers to buy insurance when there's no product to buy it, but they're required to have it. It's absolutely insane. And the other thing is, I mean, we've went from hands-off policing to hands-off policing protests to now hands-off policing officers' homes who are under under attack by anarchists. It's one step after the other. You know, a few months ago, we did an episode and we spoke about this. We said, you know, this is going to lead to corruption because cops are going to be afraid because they're not going to feel protected. I mean, obviously, you know, whether you're scared or not, whether you're a person that's afraid of these things or not, you're at work, your family's home, your wife's home, your kids are home, and now these people are coming to your house. I mean, that's going to be alarming to anybody. And what's the department's response to this? I mean, that's what I want to see, because as of right now, there've been no arrest made. And this was an act of domestic terrorism. They kicked his front door. It's attempted burglary. They also threw a lit hat that was on fire at his home. That's attempted arson. I want to see these individuals locked up. I believe in the First Amendment. If you show up at my house and you protest across the street and you don't endanger my family, it's fine. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm not going to have no reaction to that. But when you're running up on someone's home and kicking their door and throwing lit things on fire at their home, it's totally different. Eric, what do you think? Do you think there will be any arrests made from the attacks on these officers' homes?
Well, there wasn't going to be before, but now that there's media attention, especially coming from this podcast, thanks to Defiance Unfiltered, our friends that listen to the podcast, please put this out on social media. Sammy, we ask you the same thing. Please also put this out there. Arrest immediately. And I believe on the level of local municipalities, it's just not enough. We need the feds to step in. We need a full FBI investigation. This needs to be charged as domestic terrorism, and we need to see this in the Southern District. We need to see this, or the Eastern District, right? Depending if it's going to go by the residence of the cop. So this has to be pursued properly because it has to send a message so this doesn't happen any further. We see things as they progress. If we do not nip this in the bud, it's going to get worse, and eventually they're going to enter a cop's home, and that's where things may turn deadly. Fortunately, this didn't happen, but this is going to change the lives of those police officers and their families forever. You think that police officer is ever going to put himself in a situation where he's actually going to do enforcement, where he may have to save the life of himself or someone else? He's probably going to try to find himself a desk job and do something where he's not doing any level of enforcement if he has that opportunity. And if he is going to be out there doing some level of enforcement, we already saw the tactical nightmare, second and triple guessing. I mean, telling the adversary perpetrator to drop a knife 38 times before you actually fire your weapons is insane. It's by far too much restraint. Restraint is necessary, but too much of anything is not good. And too much restraint is no good. It doesn't help the police officers. It sure as hell doesn't help the community. We need action immediately. If we do not see action immediately, we're going to have a huge problem. And to the families of police officers out there, you need to protect yourself because you cannot rely on the NYPD. And we hear nothing from the unions. And even if they talk is cheap. It's not enough. We need action. Action immediately. Again, we may see some arrests right now from the attention, and we will put this out on the podcast. We will put this out on social media. But it's a shame it comes to that point that we need the voices at this point to make the big steps.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And you guys can, I mean, I love what you guys are doing. You guys are doing, putting that information out there for guys to listen. So I'm a avid listener.
No, we appreciate it, Sammy. Yeah, so we're going to go on a little while. We're going to talk about this, and then we're going to bring what Steven Crowder puts out. Sammy, you're welcome to stay with us. If you got to run, I don't know what your schedule is like.
I actually have to run,
Yeah.
I got to do another, I got another interview, but I appreciate you guys having me, and always welcome to come back. You guys have me.
Absolutely. Sammy, thanks for joining us, brother. Have a great day. All right. Keep up the good work. Let us know what goes on. All right.
Hey, Sammy, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. But before you leave, real quick, just tell people where they can find you. Tell them what you're running for so they can support you. So if you could just give that information out. And Sammy, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. Thanks for your service.
No, thank you. The funny thing is, a lot of people think I'm running for something. I actually, for those of you guys that know, I ran for office on a pro-police platform during the BLM riots. So a lot of people think that I actually did that just to prove a point. I was not going to win. I was not going to go anywhere. Hello, who's going to pro for a cop running in the Democratic primary? So my point was that a lot of people think now that I'm running. I know I have that nice little flag. But I'm not running for anything. I actually doing this because ideologically, I believe it's the right thing to do. I'm afraid of our country and where it's headed, to be honest with you. And I'm the type of person that if I can do something about it, I can. I'm doing this just a regular American, regular person that loves this country. I actually, have the scars to prove it. And, I want every other American that's a patriot to do the same, stand up for this country, don't be afraid. So that's the only reason I'm doing it. I'm not running for anything. So just wanted to.
Sammy, thank you so much, brother.
Have a great night, brother. Take care, bro. Later. So, all right, people, that was Sammy Ravelo. And we just showed you cop's house coming under assault, off-duty cop's house. There were numerous others. There were a lot of posts online of cops involved in these riots that you're seeing that we have up on now, because obviously when you take over a street or a sidewalk, it's no longer a lawful protest. It's now turned into a riot. When you start to beat up cops, we had a cop slashed in the head yesterday. He was assaulted. Had an NYPD cop. So yeah, it's illegal in New York City to take over streets. It's illegal in New York City to take over roadways. It's illegal in New York City to kick somebody's front door and attempt to break through it. It's illegal to light things on fire and throw them in a house and attempt to set the house on fire. But unfortunately, the New York City Police Department arbitrarily chooses who they're going to arrest and who they're not. So we're going to watch this. This is just more hands-off style policing. We'll bring in video after video. And this is all about, it's all about the fact that Eric Adams has removed the ability of the NYPD to properly police these protests. So we'll see. Let's play the first video. Let's get your thoughts on it, and then we'll go around. Here's video number 1 from last night.
Keep moving, keep moving. Move, move. Everyone in. Go. All the way in. All the way, move it in. You're tall.
Let him go! Everything you do is illegal, fucker!
What do you think, Eric?
I mean, think about it. We are pretty close to the threshold. We're about to hit a year of daily protest in New York City that actually equate to violence and riots. Almost a year. These protests commenced on October 8th of 2023. So think about that. We are getting pretty close to 1 year of daily protests in New York City, and we've never seen a proper response by the NYPD. I don't blame those boots on the ground. It's failed leadership, because I see the look on their faces, and it looks like a cloud of just completely unsure and insecure at this point, because there's no vision and they don't know what to do. It's a hands-off approach. There's no intrusive police work. It's absolutely an epic fail, but I blame the leadership. Those police officers, they're dressed, they're prepared, they're ready to go. But unfortunately, they have failed leadership. They have no vision, and there's no mission, and they don't know what they're doing there. It's a sad state of affairs, but we're allowing this to fester. And I'm sure if this was some type of conservative rally, it would be a complete different response. But that's what we see from the standard from the woke progressive police department. And make no mistake about it right now. Every police officer has in the back of their mind that, hey, if I actually take action, if I make an arrest, if I deploy my taser, or if I use my firearm, and the lefties want to get a perverse reaction from the public and create a false narrative and completely gaslight the public, is my home next? Do I have to worry about my wife and child? If you're a young police officer and you have a young wife at home with a 2-year-old baby or an infant at home, do you want to take that risk that your house is going to be attacked and you have to worry about your family member? That's a lot of stress to be under. There's a lot of stress. You're already under stress in the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Potential civil liability. Pretty soon you may need insurance. You don't have a union that backs you. You have no support. The media's on you. Optics. And now you have to worry about your home because you're taking action. This is an epic fail. Almost 1 year of riots. And that's why I say they're not protests, they're riots. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you see them charging. I think they were on 41st Street in that video. They're probably looking to go to Grand Central Station to take over Grand Central Station, which is another shutdown of critical infrastructure in New York City, which we see time and time again, disrupting just regular people's lives. You see here the traffic. I mean, if you look at this video, you're just going to see people are just being completely frustrated in New York City because this is every night. This is Eric Adams, New York City. So when people are like, oh, it'll be much worse on the Jumaane Williams, what? We already have anarchists controlling New York City. We have paid agitators. The people who fund them and organize these events are held for nothing. Nobody looks at them. Nobody cares. So I'm like, how is it going to get much worse? I honestly think it might actually alleviate. It might actually be a little bit better without this guy in office. I don't think it's going to get much worse. If it does, it needs to get worse because this is not a way to live. This is not acceptable. Watch this video. Watch this.
I'm waiting for the youth.
Is that a park?
Yes, it's a park.
Back up. Let's go. He didn't do shit. He didn't do a fucking thing.
Oh, look, dude, that dude was going to run through the crowd. He was so frustrated. He was going to run through the crowd. Why they allowed him to just continuously beep, I would have calmed him down originally. Stop beeping the horn and wait a second, right? But he was going to run through the crowd. And when they start to bark orders at him to ensure public safety, he goes to go. He goes to go on them like he's going to drive through the crowd. When they arrest him, when they take him out of the car, the protesters now start saying NYPD, KKK. And they're turning on the cops too. This is how insane it is. You have people minding their own business that are losing their minds, right? This dude was probably at work or whatever the hell he's doing. He's like, I want to get through here. He's snapping out. He's losing it on the police. The police are trying to stop him from running over the protesters. The protesters now turn on the police because the police are stopping him from running them over. This is what they're dealing with every night in New York City. This is what they're dealing with. Complete insanity. Because, again, we just chase the tail. We arrest the back of the pack. We arrest the stupid protesters. We undercharge them. Everything's thrown out. They're released in 4 hours, and they're back out again to do it the next night.
I agree. You said it well, brother. It's exactly what they're doing. They're just chasing their tail. They're arresting these low-hanging fruits, just to make it look good. We had this protest turn to a riot. John, we all know how the NYPD works. Look, we have a couple arrests. This is how we did our job. This was the solution. We made a couple arrests. You know what? This is what they could tell people when John Shell and Kaz Daughtry go on a media tour. Oh, we did make some arrests. But did you actually create a solution? Did you actually cut off the heads of these paid agitators? Did you actually find the root cause of these riots? No. We just arrested the low-hanging fruits that has no impact on this riot itself and any future riots going further. Again, all it does is embolden me. And you're right. That's why I was laughing at this. Look, the police department is actually stepping in and supporting the public safety of people that are riding towards them, because this is a U-Haul truck and they could easily mow people down. And the police officers are taking their job, and the enemy of your enemy becomes your friend. That's what happened. The two enemies, this guy in the U-Haul truck and the people riding out there, create an alliance against the police department. Insane. This is just total insanity. And again, epic fail by the leadership of the police department. I mean, clearly the police department has no ability now to lead this city to public safety, despite the rhetoric from Eric Adams. His whole campaign is public safety is the key to prosperity for New York City. And we can't have public safety or prosperity when we have an administration that's under a probe, that's completely inept, and has inadequate leadership. This is your byproduct right here. This is New York City. Everything's on steroids right now. Migrant crisis, illegal military age males running amok, creating the most heinous crimes out there. We have police officers that are being attacked for doing their job with this false narrative that was $2.90. Everyone watch that video. A man with a knife, armed with a knife, is a dangerous adversary. We hear, oh, they should wrestle him. They shot an innocent man. Low information people, stupid people don't care about facts. They just care about being a part of something. That's what this is about. People want to be a part. They want to take themselves into this protest, and we're arresting these low-hanging fruits. Start arresting the people that are funding this. Start arresting the people that are actually in leadership positions that set this up.
Yeah, so on this video, you're going to see the head of Within Our Lifetime, a very well-organized and funded group. I don't even know how to say her name, but you're going to see her in the middle of it. So let's see what this is. I didn't watch this one yet. I just saw it as she was flashing on there.
We know you're really straight. We know you're open the fucking gate. Hey, God, get out the way. No, get over there. Not over here. Yeah. Relax. Move it. We know you're really straight. Oh, God, get out the way. Move, get out the way. We know you're really straight.
You were viciously attacked and brutally arrested.
Check!
Right, check!
The NYPD!
The NYPD!
With their billions of dollars!
With their billions of dollars!
Thought that they could stop us!
Thought that they could stop us!
They tried arresting us!
They tried arresting us!
Pepper spraying us!
Pepper spraying us!
And
Absolute utter insanity. This is New York City every night. It's a great place to live. It's good to spend millions of dollars here, spend 12 hours a day working, pay all this money in taxes to just watch these people operate with impunity. I mean, again, even if he was arrested, he would have been undercharged. There's the head that you've seen her there, Nadeem Kashim, or whatever the hell her name is. She basically runs New York City. She's the mayor of New York City. She says when blocks are going to be open, when roads are going to go, all that stuff. She's the boss. She's absolutely the boss in New York City. Paid protesters doing whatever the hell they want. And again, when they are arrested, when they act up, they're undercharged. And then this way, it makes it nice and easy for Soros to just drop everything. So, I mean, again, there's no end in sight to this with Eric Adams' administration. Again, look at this. Could you walk on the street? Could you walk down with your elderly parent, your disabled child, your child? Could you even walk there yourself as a full-grown man? I mean, this is insanity. This is completely insanity. This is propping up for violence. Violence will happen if this is allowed to continue.
I want to add to this and speak on the violence. Right now, this is what I expect from the unions. We haven't heard from the unions right now to protect their police officers, to protect their detectives, sergeants, lieutenants. Everyone is out there right now and exposed and is vulnerable to being doxxed and being attacked because of the 50A. if they do police work that's in opposition to these lefties, or if they find that their particular police event is something that could be they can get a perverse reaction from the public, which is what they want, complete chaos, especially as we get close to the election. Every union leader right now should call for the removal of identifiers of police officers right now, and tell CCRB that they can take a shit and they can take a seat. They can sit right now by the wayside, and who cares about CCRB right now? None of the police officers right now should have their name tapes exposed at this point. You can have their shield numbers, but not their name tapes. Every union right now should stand up and say, I don't even care if you come out with a policy right now that allows our police officers to remove it. We're going to remove it right now because you can no longer keep our police officers safe. You want to give them discipline? No problem. We'll have the highest paid lawyers to fight this. I think at this point, the unions have to stand up and protect their police officers, and they have done nothing. And I think you have to start with removing these name tapes, because these name tapes with the shield numbers is a gateway for complete access of all your information, and it's the path with the 50A. That 50A could give a lot of information about someone. And right now, the police officers are under attack, which means the public is under attack. We have to look at the big picture when it comes to this.
I'm going to totally disagree with you. Removing the name and shield number. I'm going to, they have to just do what they need to do and arrest people that break the law. I'm not calling for a police state. I'm not saying I want unidentified government employees locking me up, beating me up. By all means, we see that the NYPD, it cannot be trusted. The leadership cannot be trusted. There are numerous videos we did play here that people should have been arrested for, are arrested for. So I'm absolutely not going to call for the removal of shields and nameplates. I'm going to call for I'm going to call for the New York City Police Department to once again be the New York City Police Department. And when someone breaks the law, it should be one standard of justice for everybody. It should, if I light a fire, if I light a hat on fire and throw it at someone's house, I should be arrested for attempted arson. If I kick someone's front door in, I should be arrested for attempted burglary. I should be charged appropriately. And when the district attorney's not doing their job, I shouldn't have John Schell on the media yesterday going on Fox News talking about how his partners in the DA's office are going to do everything they can to stop these illegal protests, when his partners in the DA's office has done everything to empower them. So I'm absolutely not calling for that. I don't support that at all. There needs to be transparency. Unfortunately, this is the New York City Police Department, and I'm not going to take away rights and give more rights to the government because of their incompetence. I refuse to do that. I will not support that.
John, I did not say remove shield numbers. I know what you're saying. I said to keep the shield numbers, but remove the name tapes. I think that I don't believe in a police state either. But at this point, I do believe at this point, temporarily, the name tapes should be removed. Keep the shield number, remove the name tapes. And no, I see you shaking head, but this is my opinion. And the reason why I say at this point,
fine. I just don't agree with you.
No, I understand. But hear me out. Because at this point with the unions, they have to protect their members. And you're right. If the police department was acting appropriately and doing their job effectively, then we wouldn't have to remove name tapes. People would be arrested and held accountable, but they're not. That's why I'm saying the unions at this point have to say, hey, the leadership cannot protect the police officers. We're not doing our job. We're not arresting people for acts of terrorism. We're not even making arrests. We're arresting low-hanging fruit. So we have to find a way to protect our members. So at this point, temporarily, I would say keep the shield and remove the name tapes. Not permanent, but at this point, just as an action from the union, because these police officers have to be protected. And if not, they're going to be corrupted. And we said it, John. I think 100%. We're going to see corruption. If they can't protect their, maybe them, not themselves, but if they can't protect their families, that's a path for corruption.
Well, I mean, I think exactly what you're saying is another path for corruption, and I don't support it. I think that is calling for a police state. That's what we're doing. We're saying, oh, the poor cops, like, oh my God, we have to protect them at all costs. Mask them, is what Loud Labs is saying. Mask them, remove their names. Marlon's saying they should only have their first names. I totally, utterly disagree. I totally, utterly disagree with all of you. Loud Labs is calling for, it's called the Watchmen. If we're in that society, society has completely broken down. I don't support it at all. Again, this is what people have been alleging for many years. The crimes being allowed to happen, the protests are being allowed to happen, anarchists are being allowed to run wild, so that the good people will sit there and say, govern me harder, daddy, keep me safe. I'm not buying it. You know what? If New York's the leadership in the NYPD isn't going to do what they need to do to protect their police officers, if they're not going to properly arrest people, if the DA's office is not going to properly arrest people, we need to hold our elected officials accountable. That's it. End of story. I'm sorry if like I don't agree at all. And again, we've seen cops step on people's heads for absolutely no reason. We've seen cops plant drugs on people. We've been threatened. We've had our children threatened by cops. No, sorry. I want to know what your name and your last name is. And at the same time, this department cheered on 50A. They cheered it on. And at that time, everyone was saying that I'm crazy because I was on the job when I was pushing back on it. And I was saying, this is absolutely ridiculous. What do they need next? Do they need where my children go to school? If they know where my children go to school, is that good? Does that provide public safety and public transparency? And every cop, no one said a thing. And most people supported it. The entire upper echelon of the NYPD, including all the little hacks that are in there now. It's a great thing. Transparency is a good thing. Well, here we are. So now I'm not for removing transparency. This is what it is. This is a system they've created.
I agree. Listen, I don't believe in a police state at all. And I don't believe in more government. I actually believe in less government. Despite the fact I served in the military and also the police department, I don't believe in more government. I believe that we have to have less government. But at the same time, to actually protect the public, we have to protect the police officers. So I do believe at this time they should have this shield number, remove the last name, because there's just too much access with 58. And if police officers are extremely vulnerable already of CCRB and all the other oversight, along with now being terrorized, potentially terrorized by organizations that are funded by Soros, now we have a major problem. And the police department is in a point right now, it's under a federal probe, ineffective leadership. How can they actually protect the police officer so the police officer can protect the public? So I do think the union needs to make a stand. I think it needs to be done temporarily. Again, I know what you're saying. I agree. And there's both ways to look at this, different facets and different aspects. But John, right now we have the luxury of saying this, right? I mean, I'm no longer in New York, neither are you, and we're not in the police department. But if I was out there right now, I would do everything in my power. Let's be honest, and I wonder what our friends and listeners think. I would do everything in my power to keep my family safe, to keep my wife and kids safe. I'm sorry, but they come first. My family comes first. In order for me to do my job effectively, I have to feel that my family is safe and comfortable at home. I'm a very reasonable person, and I'm very reasonable. But if I think my family is under attack, I will do whatever it takes to keep them safe. And I'm sure you probably would do the same, and sure would most people here, because in order for me to do my job effectively, I have to know that my kids are home safe. That has to be in the back of my mind so I can keep the public safe. So I think maybe something has to be done.
So if you remove your last name, that's going to keep your family safe?
Listen, does that impede? I'm sorry. Does that completely stop them from obtaining my information? No, but it creates an obstacle and at least curb that, and potentially just curb them from getting the information. You're 100% right.
I'm going to say right now, it emboldens them. It emboldens them, and it makes you look weak. It makes this police department look weak. It makes this city look weak. It makes the government look weak. I mean, again, you're saying that cops shouldn't be able to anonymously report corruption.
I agree on that. Yes.
Should anonymously be allowed to go out and do enforcement? Absolutely not. I'm sorry. I disagree. I disagree with you. I disagree with Marlon. I disagree with Loud Labs. I disagree with a lot of people on here. I don't see it. Why are we calling for that? That's law, by the way. Why are we calling for that, but we're not calling for the removal of 58? Why are we calling for that, but we're not calling the removal of the mayor? Why are we calling for that, but we're not calling for the removal of Alvin Bragg? That is, I'm not. I'll tell you right now, if I was the union president, I wouldn't be taking that stand. I wouldn't.
I think this
we need to get back to locking people up.
I think it's a great discussion. Absolutely. That's the answer, is that we need to be, you know what they say, the police department is the biggest gang in New York, then we need to be the biggest gang and actually have some fear, right? Because to have to have discipline, there has to be some fear. And there's no discipline in society right now. That's why I say temporarily. I don't think this is a permanent fix. But temporarily, an action by the union may be necessary, just enough to send a message to the police department that, hey, right now, our police officers are not completely identifiable until you can actually take the step in the right direction. You're right. You know, what does it take to be strong? You need a support system, right? You need strong people, and you need a strong system. But if I'm out there and I can't protect my family, how can I be strong? I need to know that the police department supports me to do that job, to make these arrests. If we were making these arrests, and if the police department was acting appropriately, and if the police department was revered, and the police department was a warrior spirit, and people were feared the police department, then they wouldn't show up at the doorstep of a police officer. And if they're willing to show up at the doorstep and burn a hat, next time they're going to enter, they're going to kill the entire family. So this is a horrible situation to be in. I get it. Yeah, we have to be strong, and I'm strong as hell, and so are you. But my family is vulnerable, and I want to protect them to whatever means it takes.
I do, but I just think that does not make me feel safe at all. Shout out to Duty Ron, $10 to the podcast. I'm happy to support fellow brothers in blue. Keep up the great work. Ron Layson has put up a great thing. He said, when we retire, we are granted a public records exemption when applying for our carry permit. Why isn't there a public record exemption while on the job? Not public job identifiers. And that I agree with. I agree. You don't need to know where I live. You don't need to know where my children go to school. You don't need to know these things. But you need to know who I am. I'm a police officer. This is it. You need to be able to identify police officers. If there was a state right now where police officers weren't identified, I will guarantee you this. I will not go there. If there's a country like that, I will not go there. I guarantee that. I'm not living under those rules, especially when we're sitting here talking about that the police department shaking down people. They're falsely arresting people. They're working with corrupt real estate executives. They're working with corrupt business partners. They're working with corrupt politicians and corrupt DAs. I'm not living in that state. I agree with you 100%. Things need to be done to protect the public. That is going to embolden people. What we need to do, it's gonna drive the good people away from the police. It's going to help bring in a police state. I don't see it at all. I see there's 1,000 other things that need to be done before we go there. There's 1,000 other things that need to be done before we go there. That 100%. Why should someone be able to get my address right away? They shouldn't be able to. My address should be confidential. I'm a police officer. I'm in danger. But unfortunately, that's the way it was. And by the way, I've locked some pretty bad dudes up that knew exactly where I live, that actually threatened me off duty. And I've had a lot of things happen. And this police department didn't do shit. So, but the thing was, at the time, if it would have got out of hand and things would have happened, those people would have got arrested and prosecuted. Now, no one's getting arrested and no one's getting prosecuted. I'm not for taking away things until we get back to the normal. And we're not back to the normal under Eric Adams, under Alvin Bragg, under all these woke DAs and this progressive city council. Criminals are being emboldened. I'm not going to embolden corrupt cops to be able to do whatever they want. I refuse that. I'm not going to do that to play in. Because right now what we're seeing is the police department is controlled by corrupt politicians, ran by corrupt cops.
Well, before we get off the subject, I want to make another comment. I agree with you. I don't want corrupt cops. I don't want a corrupt police department. Duty Ron, I want to thank you. $10. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for donation to the podcast. Everything that you're saying is on point. Keep in mind what I said. I think that this should be done temporarily to send a message to the leadership in the police department that our police officers, to be identifiable, to have transparency, they need to be protected. How do we protect our police officers and the public? By taking immediate action. So I'm not saying this is a permanent fix. I don't want to live in a society either that's a police state. But this may be an action that needs to be done temporarily by the unions to say, hey, to have transparency, to have our police officers identifiable, we need to be a feared police department. And we're not going to wear our name tapes until we go into that. Because you're right. we should be making arrests. But we're working under administration right now that we can't trust. We can't keep ourselves safe. If you can't keep yourself safe, you can't keep the public safe. That's one thing I learned in life. How can you help others if you can't even help yourself? We always learn that in the police department, right? Despite the fact that Juanita Holmes wants to say you don't need to run 1.5 miles. But if you're in a pickle and you're out there fighting with an adversary or perpetrator, how can I get there and if I can't run myself? So we have to be in a position that we can actually help others. I believe in transparency, absolutely. But am I going to expose all my information? Again, unfortunately, if my name is available right now because of the 50A, you can find out everything about myself, and they can respond to my home. They can track you. They can follow you. And if that's the case, and if they have the ability to do that, they can impede you doing your job as a police officer, corrupt you, corrupt your family, and you can no longer keep the public safe. So I believe it would be something temporarily, a short fix. Just a message from the union to say we need to fix this now. Thomas Joyce, thank you so much for the donation to the podcast. $100. That is more than enough. We really appreciate it. So nice of you. Thomas Joyce says someone has to support the troops. Right now, you are the only voice. Keep it up. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. That's what this is about. Opinions. You know, John and I, this is not scripted. We're not going to agree on everything. And somewhere, John's right. And so am I, but we have to meet in the middle and compromise. Linda AC, $20. Love this podcast. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. That's why opinions are so important. John gives his opinion. I give my opinion. We all weigh in. We find a way to compromise in something that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so enough of the nameless, faceless cops. So listen, before we get at what is it?
Nameless, faceless, mass.
Mass cops.
Let me run.
Yeah, Tom, thank you. Linda, we appreciate it. Duty Ron, we appreciate you guys. Thanks everybody. You guys are very generous. We really appreciate everything. So Steven Crowder has just dropped another video about Varmagate. So I don't know what it is. I haven't watched it. We've been on here the entire time while that was going on. So let's see what Varmagate has come out now. Let's see what this is, and then we'll discuss it. Here we go.
We're going to address monkeypox. There was a big outbreak a couple years ago, but it's not going to spread among the general population. It's almost certainly going to stay primarily among gay men. Honestly, in the United States, the risk is very low. It's only primarily transmitted among gay men. It basically got into the sexual networks of gay men, and a lot of gay men have tons and tons of sexual partners, and often don't use condoms. And so as a result, it spreads more.
What's the drug called?
It's called tecovirimat, or TPOXX is the name of it. We also need to keep up the people's belief that the drug works, so that's why spinning it in the media is helpful. So we want the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, to approve our drugs specifically for monkeypox. And right now it's only considered experimental. And they won't approve it based on this study. You can spin them so that people won't dump the stock thinking that the company's worthless. World Health Organization did an announcement about a public health emergency. It's all over the news and stuff. They could give us something called an emergency authorization. This is what they did during COVID, like the vaccines and everything. They actually have to submit the data, but they took the preliminary data. They didn't wait till the data was followed out for 3 or 6 months because it was an emergency. Because basically what we're trying to get the media to say is, oh, the drug didn't work because it was designed the wrong way. So they're going to do another study and it'll probably work. And in the meantime, people should prescribe it for that reason as an emergency drug. That's what we want the story to be. Because the problem is we're stuck with our drug, it definitely looks like it works, but the people that we need to buy it are not going to be as confident in it because the data doesn't look as strong as it would have if it was designed in a different way. So sometimes you do a study and nothing works at all, or people get really sick from it. The problem is if you do another study, it'll take a year or two to do it because you got to get ethics approval, you got to get money, you got to get patients come in.
I mean, is it a moneymaker, the emergency use?
Well, it depends. It's not that many patients have the disease, which is why my CEO has to decide, is it worth it? Because if there's only a few thousand cases in the United States,
Right.
does it really make sense to do another study that's going to cost $10 million or to do?
Okay.
If you're not going to make that much money on the other hand. And so my boss is trying to figure out she's the money person.
Okay.
I'm supposed to
Yeah.
be the thinker. I was like on phone calls and work stuff all day and getting interviewed by media from different angles and things like that. So, yeah. So I know the reporters well.
Are you unreal, Eric? What do you think about what he just said?
I can't believe the stuff that we're seeing, especially after hearing Eric Adams say, "Oh, they had to follow the rules." Everything that comes out of this guy's mouth is a lie, and even what he said, the medicines pretty much don't even work. The data doesn't even reflect it. But we have to push it out there. This is insane. I can't believe. How is this guy not in prison right now? Put this guy in jail. He's an animal. How does this man sleep at night? He is so self-serving. The only person this guy cares about is himself. Honestly, put him in jail, brother.
Honestly, insane. I mean, I think he just undermined the entire public health organization. I really do. I think that he just completely undermined it. He literally said, that we need the media to spin it so that we can make money off of it. The data doesn't show that it's effective. So we need the media to spin it that, but it could be effective later on down the road so that we can make money out of it. So the whole thing has nothing to do with public health. It has everything to do with the almighty dollar. I mean, he's done more damage to undermine the public health system in the last few weeks, I think, than anything that's happened prior to this man. I think, this is a really big problem, people. This is a really, really big problem. And this is why transparency is so important. Because, again, we were told what we needed to do without ever being shown the data. And when they showed us the data was always skewed, or they hid facts and they censored voices of doctors that gave opposing opinions. I mean, honestly, I don't even just think he should be in jail. Like, he's not sitting there and telling you he's in charge and he's the only one that knows this. He's telling you everybody that's involved in this, politicians, the media, his bosses. This is corporations controlling our government, our public health system, the media, and then they're pushing it down to you like cattle. This is honestly, it's way bigger than him. People like Eric Adams, Bill de Blasio, the New York City Public Health Commissioner that, by the way, just resigned, Vasan. He's another one. He masked our kids forever. He wouldn't let my daughters go to school because they didn't take a flu vaccine. It's people like them. They need to be in jail because they empower demons and lying corporate Nazis like this guy to go ahead and go further to make the almighty dollar. So what we're seeing right now is that the country is being controlled by money. Our political structure is being controlled by it. Public health's being controlled by it. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting, dude. I honestly can't believe what I'm watching.
What is he also telling you, right? He's telling you that revenue is more important than the data and more important than the science and more important than people's health. Because what do you say? If we actually got another medicine that we think would work, not the one that we have, but the one that would work, would take a year to 2 years because of all the permits that it has to bypass, all the approvals that it needs. But no, we're not going to worry about that. Let's use the one that we have right now because we need the money now. We need immediate action. He's a piece of shit. Mickey Murphy just wrote in the comment, bum. Put this bum in jail. We identified all the bums in New York City right now. This is bum number one, if you ask me. Put this bum in jail. Eric Adams should be in jail alongside him also for saying that people didn't follow the rules. What rules? He just told you 1,000 times it's all bullshit. They completely lied to the public. The data doesn't matter. The only that matters in this administration is the pretty dollar. That's all they care about.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's disgusting. It's honestly disgusting. This is and so for a lot of people are talking about the Diddy freak offs or freak outs. I don't even know. I could care less what they are. But a lot of stuff that's coming out from some pretty big accounts, it's not in the mainstream media, but they're saying that the Diddy raid was tied to New York City politics, specifically Eric Adams. I don't know that that's true or that's not, but that's all over like the social media channels. Like this starting late last night until this morning. I saw it from a couple of big accounts. I don't know that that's true or it's not, but it wouldn't. I mean, seeing this dude telling you he was basically having freak-offs, he's in charge of public health and he's using illegal drugs and, having wild sex orgies while he's telling you you have to stand 6 feet away from people at a grocery store, or you can't breathe the air while you're working out, or, it's not good to go to a beach, or, hey, by the way, you have to put this in your body and it doesn't work. Telling you all of these different things. It wouldn't shock me. Eric, would it shock you if it comes out that the Diddy raid was related to the public corruption inside of New York City?
Well, you just asked a question that you know the answer to, and you know my answer. Absolutely. Nothing would shock me anymore when it comes to this administration, when it comes to New York City, or anything that's going on in this country anymore. It's like every day you wake up right now, and I wake up at 4 a.m. every day, and I wake up like, wow, what is today going to bring? What is today's news going to bring? This machine is unbelievable. What I tell you yesterday, I spoke to you offline. We had a conversation. I said, John, you know what? I was doing some research. I sat back for a minute. We've been busy as hell. Sat back and thought, wow, it's kind of quiet today. The news machine is slowed down a little bit. And boom, right away, we hear about a protest at a cop's house. We hear about all the stuff going on. I'm like, it never stops. It never surprises you, especially with this administration, especially the state of New York City, the state of New York State, this entire country. Prime timer 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you so much for the donation to the podcast, $10. Greed is one of the 7 sins. Keep up the great work. You're absolutely right. And this administration are complete sinners, especially Dr. Varma and everyone that went along with it. Everyone, there needs to be a full investigation and find out everyone that lied to perpetuate this complete lie should be held liable, should be held accountable, and they should be in jail, and they should also be liable for damages sustained for people like John, who had to get a shorthanded retirement, for people like Marlon Bethel that was terminated, for other people that are just like John and Marlon, because there's many others from New York City Police Department, Fire Department, Teachers for Choice. We need to have those people vindicated, and they should be compensated, monetarily compensated for the damages that you suffered and what you had to sustain, and constantly having to speak about this mandate, how we all know it's ridiculous, and how there's attorneys out there that are afraid to actually face a courtroom with this case. That's another problem I have. That's a huge problem, that we have attorneys, licensed attorneys, that are afraid to face a courtroom that is built on a lie.
Yeah, 100%. So what were we talking about the other day? We were talking about, somebody brought this up. Forgive me, I forget who it was in the chat. We were saying, has a police commissioner been indicted and arrested? And someone mentioned this dude, William Devery. He was the police commissioner. He was the first chief of police, and then that rank was abolished in 1901. He was known as the king of kickbacks. So as of right now, I don't think we've ever had a seated police commissioner get arrested and indicted, except for him. But he's got a pretty crazy story, this dude. Just before we wrap this up, let's get into William Devery a little bit. Well, the NYPD's William Devery was born in New York City, 1854. In 1878, at the age of 24, he was hired as a patrolman. On September 16th, 1881, he was made a roundsman, and on May 28th, 1884, he was promoted to sergeant. On December 30th, 1891, after 13 years on the force, he was promoted to captain. As a police captain, he once told the men, "They tell me there's a lot of grafting going on in this precinct. They tell me that you fellows are the fierce crest ever on graft. The fiercest ever on graft. Now that's going to stop. If there's grafting to be done, I'll be the only one. Leave it to me." On February 5th, 1897, he was arrested and charged with bribery and extortion. So this is while he's the seated police commissioner. After conviction, he was dismissed from the force. He appealed his conviction in the New York Court of Appeals. It was overturned. And he was reinstated to the force and promoted to inspector on January 7th, 1898, and deputy chief on February 4th, 1898. He was then appointed the chief of police June 30th, 1898. So let's back up here. He was not the seated police commissioner when that happened to him. He was a captain. He was a captain, and he was arrested for bribery and extortion, but he got it turned over in the courts. I don't know how. I'm assuming some witnesses changed their minds. We're going to have to read about that, Eric. So actually, as of now, he doesn't even count. Well, we just wanted to give a little history, and we'll continue on him. But Eric, what are you thinking on this?
Listen. I just figured I'd have a little fun here, John. First of all, I think it looks like John Shell with a mustache. So, do you think he had his game tape exposed?
I do. Yeah.
I mean, this is hilarious. I mean, what we're seeing right now is it's pretty reflective. It's actually far worse than this guy here. I mean, at least this guy's case was overturned. This probe is still going on. We don't even know what's going on behind closed doors, but I'm sure people feared this guy. You know, I'm sure. I guess he does look like John Shell. I'm sure that's what John Shell is trying to do right now. And Kaz Daughtry, try to put fear into podcasts. They don't like the First Amendment. Apparently, giving your opinion is a real problem. So,
unbelievable. All right, let's finish up on him. So he gets arrested for extortion and bribery. The courts appeal it. Not only does he get reinstated, he gets promoted. And then after he gets promoted, he becomes appointed the chief of police on June 30th, 1898, which is at that time the same rank as police commissioner. Chief of police was the police commissioner. So in 1899, Theodore Roosevelt and the Republican state. Sorry, I don't know what the hell's going on. This thing's
sounds like an ice cream truck.
This thing's picking up like my wife's phone calls. I have no idea what's going on. In 1899, Theodore Roosevelt and the Republican state legislators established a committee headed by Robert Mazet to investigate Tammany Hall corruption under the leadership of Richard Croker. Lincoln Steffens, a popular journalist of that time, wrote of Devery, as a chief of police, he is a disgrace. But as a character, he is a work of art. Wow, that's great. I'm actually going to quote that about Eric Adams right now. The police department was reorganized again, and he has been headed ever since by a police commissioner. The first commissioner, Michael C. Murphy, appointed Devery as his deputy commissioner. Both Murphy and Devery went out of office in January 1st, 1902, when Seth Low became the mayor of New York. Whole article on this dude in the New York Post. It's called When Cops Were Robbers. It's a 2015 article. Definitely look it up. But something significant about this cop. You got to remember, cops made nothing at this time. This dude, after he leaves the NYPD, he buys the Yankees. That's how much money these dudes were making. So I guess grifting in public safety has been around a lot longer than just Eric Adams and his buddies.
It seems like he was getting his crumbs. A lot more than Timothy Pearson. Maybe. He was getting his crumbs all right.
Crazy, right? Crazy story.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Look, we're about 2.5 hours into it. I want to thank the listeners and friends of the podcast. Thank you so much for weighing in. This is what this is about. To have real friends, you have to be honest with each other, and that's one thing I love about John and the dynamic, the relationship that we have is we're not afraid to disagree with each other. And that's what real friends do. You have to be able to agree or disagree. Ron Layson, he's on here all the time. We always laugh. We get along great. And for the most part, 90% of things we disagree on. Then we laugh about it. I know what you're going to say. We always find some opposition, but you have to laugh at it and meet in the middle. Opinions matter. Weighing in, we appreciate. Thank you, everyone. How many people did we finish? How many people are here? And since who is here, please like and subscribe. Smash that button. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. John, how many we got? How many closing out with?
We have 754 we're closing out with. We appreciate all those that hung out with us today. Before we go, a little bit about our friend Tom Sullivan. So, Assembly member who he's running against, Stacey Pfeiffer Amato, who's supposedly endorsed by the PBA. I still haven't found that. She refused to call on Hochul to remove sanctuary state status. So, you know, that's who these police unions are supporting. Tom Sullivan's actually calling for common sense, not only in public safety, but around our border security as well, and to remove sanctuary state status, which also gives protections to illegal criminal gangs. So, crazy times. Any closing thoughts before we play Tom's video and then we get out of here?
No, again, friends and listeners of the podcast, don't be afraid to give your opinions, even if people are in opposition and people don't agree with you. Be that person that stands up in the room, stand up for what you believe in. People will respect you more. They may not like it. You may get some opposition, but they will respect you more. And respect is far more important, because people will like you out of respect and not like you out of weakness. And with that, thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Check out our friend Tom Sullivan, Assembly District 23 in Queens. Fast Eddie says, next time you see a cop in trouble, stop and help him or her. That's your job as a citizen. Agree. Shout out. We'll be back live 8:05 tomorrow. See you guys then. Tom Sullivan is the Republican, Conservative, and Common Sense Party candidate for New York State Assembly District 23. Tom is a financial professional who served simultaneously in the United States Army Reserve for 30 years and has now retired. His district covers Ozone Park, Lindenwold, Howard Beach, Broad Channel, and the Rockaway Peninsula.
Come November, I would empower our law enforcement agencies to go out there and do their job and not put them or their families or their pensions at risk for doing their jobs. We need drastic change in Albany so that we have a say in this matter, and they realize people of New York State will hold them accountable.
The Sullivan family has a legacy of service. Tom served for 30 years protecting and defending the rights of others. Come this November, he has earned your support. This advertisement's paid for by the Friends of Tom Sullivan.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.